Welcome to the February 29th, 2024 California Board of Behavioral Sciences meeting. My name is Wendy Strack and I'm the Vice Chair of the board. Before we convene, I'd like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing the board's laws. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. The Board of Behavioral Sciences will be holding this public meeting in person and via the WebEx platform. I will announce when we are accepting public comments on the various issues. For each public comment period, we will first be accepting comments from the participants in the audience present in the room. Then the moderator will open the lines as appropriate so that the remote audience members can comment. Each commenter will have 2 minutes to comment. Moderator, would you please provide the audience instructions on how they might participate during the meeting at the appropriate time?
Certainly. If anyone in the public would like to make a comment on any agenda item, the first choice is to raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon. Either that's at the bottom of your WebEx screen, or if you are on a mobile device, behind the 3-dot other options screen. And our call-in users may press *3 on their phone to raise their hand. If you have technical issues, you may use the Q&A feature, and the instructions will be shown on the screen during each public comment period.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's do item 1. Members, during the roll call, please introduce yourself and let the public know whether you are a licensed or public. Christina?
Good morning. Dr. Nick Boyd.
President, licensed professional clinical counselor.
Eleanor Uribe.
Present, LCSW.
Abigail Ortega.
Present, LCSW.
Dr. Annette Walker.
Present, public board member.
Justin Huff.
Present, LMFT.
Wendy Strack.
Present, public member.
John Silvet.
Present, LMFT, pronouns he, him.
Kelly Ranasinga.
Present, public member, pronouns he, him.
Susan Friedman.
Present, public member.
For the record, we have absences. Christopher Jones, Yvette Caceres Willis, Amy Eng. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we begin, I want to remind all speakers to remain on topic when making comments on the agenda items. It's going to be a full 2 days, and we want to make sure we can get to every agenda item. Additionally, we'll be looking to take a lunch break around 11:30, depending on where we are with the hearing items. For item 2, suggestions for future agenda items. Are there any suggestions from board members? Seeing none. Are there any members of the audience that would like to suggest future agenda items here in person? Seeing none. Are there any members for our remote audience that would like to suggest future agenda items? Moderator?
We've opened up the hand raise feature as well as the Q&A feature for public comment. If you'd like to suggest an item, you may raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon. If you are on a mobile device, you may need to hit the 3-dot other options to get to the hand icon. And then we will call on people in order their hand was raised. If you have technical issues and cannot find the hand icon, you can look for the question mark icon, type the word comment in the text box that appears, and click send. We do have a hand raised from someone logged into WebEx as Mike T. Mike, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone, and you will have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. You're unmuted. Mike, you can go ahead.
You got me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hi, so I'm an associate marriage and family therapist chiming in here. There's a couple things that are on my mind. I applied to get my licensure for the LMFT test, and it's been about almost 4 months now since I put in my application. And I know that there's a lot of other folks who are in my position, and I'm sure you all know.
So this part of the agenda is suggestion for future agenda items. You may be wanting to make a public comment, which is the next section. So can we bring you back then?
Well, I guess I would like to propose 2 agenda items. I just wanted to kind of give a background, but I guess that's not necessary. So I'll lock it up. So the future agenda items I'd like to propose is 1. There is a 90-day retake rule for the LMFT exam. So if you fail, you must wait 90 days to retake the exam. I'd like to propose that gets looked at again, and I'd like to propose as little as possible. I know that the LCSW just got reduced to 30 days. I think that the LMFT test should have that same treatment, knowing that it is a 4-month wait to just get approved for the test. And then if for whatever reason you fail, it's another 3 months added to that. And so, to think that the whole process of just trying to take the test might be a 7, 8, 9-month process is torturous, to say one word about it.
15 seconds.
Okay, the second item I'd like to propose is more evaluators for evaluating applications for licensure for all across the board.
That's
I know
2
that
minutes.
that's complicated.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
And the next public comment is from Call-in User 2, and I'm going to send you a request to unmute yourself, and you'll be pressing *6 to unmute yourself. And you are
Hello.
unmuted. Hello.
Hi, thank you. My name is Jennifer Bobrow. I'm an LCSW, and I'm calling because I was hoping a future agenda item could be to take a look at privacy for licensed folks and not having our addresses public record. I've been told that we can get a PO box, but there are other health professionals like nurses that do not have their address as public record. And so I don't think in our field we should have to pay for a PO box in order to practice. I've worked in nonprofit work for 20 years, so a lot of the participants that I've served or people I work with have served are sometimes people with very severe mental health issues, sometimes reentry populations, sometimes people with histories of violence. I've had a number of colleagues who've had to get restraining orders against clients they've worked with, who have been stalked, who have been followed. So I'm deeply troubled that I have to have an address that is a public record as I perform my work.
Thank you. And I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, on to item 3, public comments for items not on the agenda. As a reminder, the board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Each commenter will have 2 minutes. Are there any comments from board members? Do we have any comments from our in-person audience? All right, moderator, do we have any comments from our remote participants?
This is the moderator, and we've opened up the public comment features. If you would like to make a comment for an item that is not on the agenda, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. If you cannot find that hand icon, you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box there, and click send. And we do have a raised hand from Mike T. And as a reminder, each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. And Mike, I'm sending you a request to unmute your microphone. And you are unmuted.
Super. Cool. Thanks again for allowing me to speak here today. And I also want to just give you guys props for all the work that you do and looking out for all of us clinical professionals in California. I do want to speak on behalf of all the folks who are pursuing licensure right now, knowing that, we put so much time and effort and money and resources into getting these licenses. And I just want to propose any sort of way that, I know that it's a complicated procedure to get more folks in to the BBS to be able to evaluate. But I want to, again, just kind of reiterate that there's so many folks who are struggling financially. I'm a therapist and I can't even pay for my own therapist as an associate. I don't have health insurance. Things are really difficult. And I know that once licensure comes through, life changes a lot, and, financially and otherwise. But I'm hoping that you can hear this plea to try to do whatever is possible to begin to work towards a faster evaluation time, and maybe even overhaul the process. I know in North Carolina, where I currently reside, you take the test in the beginning
15 seconds
as an associate. And I wonder if there's any way that you can figure out a different way to manage this and streamline the efficiency of the licensure process, whether it's
2 minutes.
the time.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Very good.
And I do not see any other requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, we're going to move to our petition hearing. Today's proceedings will be conducted by Judge Marcy Larson. So good morning, Judge Larson.
Good morning.
The meeting is yours.
Thank you. So the first thing I'm going to do is call our petitioner up to sit next to the Deputy Attorney General. And is it Ms. Hash? Hash. All right. I'm going to let you get settled for a moment. All right, Ms. Hash, in just a moment, we're going to go on the record. We have a court reporter here. His job is to take down everything that's being said. I will announce the case, and I will have counsel announce herself. I'll confirm that you're here representing yourself, and then I'll briefly explain how the hearing is going to proceed this morning. And then if you have any questions, you can ask me at that time. All right? Right, on the record. All right, good morning. We are on the record. It's February 29th. 2024 in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation by Jamie Deborah Hash. This case is being heard by the Board of Behavioral Sciences, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California. This is case number 2002-02000-2010, OAH case number 2024-020288. My name is Marcy Larson. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, presiding over the matters this morning. I'm going to have the board members identify themselves so that I can establish a quorum. I'm going to start to my right with our vice chair.
Wendy Strack.
Justin Huff, LMFT.
Dr. Annette Walker.
Abigail Ortega, LCSW.
Eleanor Uraby, LCSW.
Dr. Nick Boyd, LPCC.
John Sovek, LMFT.
Kelly Renisinger, public member.
Susan Freeman, public member.
Right, we have a quorum present. May I please take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Stephanie Alamoliti, Deputy Attorney General, appearing today on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 4990.30 and Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the ALJ and the board today in fact finding. My role is not adversarial, but intended to protect the public interest. Thank you.
Ms. Hesh, you're representing yourself today, is that correct?
Correct.
You understood that, or understand that you could have had an attorney represent you at your own expense?
Yes.
And you're choosing to proceed on your own behalf?
Correct.
Okay. All right. The way that this hearing will proceed this morning is that the Deputy Attorney General will proceed first. She will give the board members a brief overview of the history of the discipline of your license. She will identify the documents that are in front of you, which are marked as exhibits. For each of those exhibits, I will ask you if you have any objection to the exhibit. You may object to an exhibit, and if you have an objection, just please tell me. I'll make a decision on whether or not the board can consider the particular exhibits. I understand that probably most of those exhibits you have submitted on your own behalf, correct? All right. After Ms. Alamo-Latif gives the board an overview and I've addressed all of the exhibits, then you will have an opportunity to present your case. I will swear you in, and then you may testify. The board, of course, has the benefit of the documents that you've submitted for your petition package. So if there's something in particular you want to draw the board's attention to, you certainly can do so. The board, of course, is concerned about your rehabilitation efforts since your license was disciplined. And I know, of course, you're seeking early termination of probation. So any information you can provide the board members with regards to why you are seeking early termination and why you believe your petition should be granted. After you've provided your testimony, I'll ask Ms. Alamo-Latif if she has any questions for you. You may object to any questions she asks, but you have to have a legal basis not to answer questions. So if you have an objection, just please tell me, and then I'll decide whether or not you must answer the question. After Ms. Alamo-Latif is done questioning you, then I will then ask our board members if they have any questions for you. They have the right to ask you questions. Again, if you have an objection to a question, just please let me know. I'll ask Ms. Alamo-Latif one more time if there's anything else that she wants to ask you. And then, of course, I will give you one more opportunity to add anything that you wish. At the end of the presentation of evidence, you both may give closing remarks. The matter will be submitted, and then the board will go into closed session to render a decision. You won't receive a decision today. The decision will be in writing, and you will receive it sometime in the future. During this proceeding, I cannot give any legal advice, but if you have any questions about the procedures, please let me know. And if I can answer the question, I will. All right, any questions? No. All right, then Ms. Alamo-Latif, if you would please begin.
I'll start with a brief background. Petitioner was issued Associate Marriage and Family Therapist registration on March 2nd, 2016, and a licensed Marriage and Family Therapist license on October 21st, 2021. On April 12, 2021, an accusation was filed against petitioner alleging 2 violations of the Business and Professions Code for dangerous use of alcohol on January 31st, 2020, when petitioner drove her vehicle while under the influence of alcohol with a blood alcohol level of 0.18% and collided into a metal gate of the property. And also the resulting criminal conviction on December 18, 2020 for alcohol-related reckless driving. Effective October 21st, 2021, the board adopted a stipulated settlement, placing petitioner's license on probation for 3 years with terms and conditions, including substance abuse terms and conditions. The projected end date of the probation is November 10th of this year, 2024. Petitioner assigned her petition for early termination on November 13th, 2023. Her request is based upon her petition and the supporting documents, which will be identified in Exhibit 3. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but will reserve the right to question petitioner.
All right, counsel, if you would please address the exhibits.
What's been pre-marked as Exhibit 1 are the jurisdictional documents, the notices of hearing. I move to admit Exhibit 1 into evidence.
All right, any objection to the notice of hearing? And I'm going to have you open up your exhibits just so you can follow along. All right, so Exhibit 1 is the notice of hearing that just provided you notice of the hearing today. Any objection?
No.
Exhibit 1 is admitted for jurisdictional purposes.
What's been pre-marked as Exhibit 2 is the board's certification of license history. I move to admit Exhibit 2 into evidence.
All right, any objection to your license history?
No.
Exhibit 2 is admitted.
What's been pre-marked as Exhibit 3 is a redacted copy of petitioner's petition packet. Included in that packet is her written petition for early termination, 10 certificates of completion of continuing education courses, a notice of completion of a 30-hour program at Second Chance, a letter of recommendation from petitioner's friend, a letter from the board's probation unit regarding the results of the psychological examination, informing petitioner that she was competent to practice independently with safety, a letter of recommendation from the director of Big Tree Psychotherapy Center, a letter from the board's probation unit regarding petitioner's full payment and satisfaction of the costs, emails between the petitioner and the board's probation unit regarding the payment of probation monitoring costs, and petitioner's written statement. I move to admit Exhibit 3 into evidence.
Right, any objection to Exhibit 3?
No.
Exhibit 3 is admitted.
What's been pre-marked as Exhibit 4 is the psychotherapy information sheet and release and resulting report. Move to admit Exhibit 4 into evidence.
And counsel, I'm wondering if that document, well, I believe that document should go in a protective order if it contains health information. I know it's just a written statement, but those are typically the types of documents that go into a protective order.
Yeah, I move for a protective order.
Right, so just explaining, this is a public hearing. Anybody from the public can request the exhibits in this matter. If there is private information such as medical information, I can protect those documents through a protective order so that only somebody who has the legal right can seek those documents. It's up to you. I'll let you decide on whether or not you want to request that those documents be included in a protective order, but I can tell you those are the types of documents that typically are.
So the board would still be able to see it, but not the public?
But not the public unless whoever is requesting the documents from the public has a legal right to obtain them.
Yes, because I'd still like them to be part of the consideration.
Of course.
Okay.
No, the board gets to see them.
Okay.
They're not protected from the board.
Okay.
They're just protected from the public. All right. Okay.
For what?
All right. So Exhibit 4, no objection, correct?
No.
All right. Exhibit 4 is admitted. Exhibit 4 will be put in a protective order.
What's been pre-marked as Exhibit 5 is a decision in order effective October 21st, 2021, adopting the stipulated settlement for the 3-year probation with terms and conditions. I move to admit Exhibit 4 into evidence.
Exhibit 5?
Oh, 5.
Yes. All right. Any objection to Exhibit 5?
No.
Exhibit 5 is admitted.
And that concludes the exhibit.
All right. Now it's your opportunity to present your case. The first thing I'm going to do is swear you in. So I'm going to have you stand so I can swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please have a seat. And please state and spell your full name for the record.
My name is Jamie Hash, spelled Jaime. Last name is Haasch.
All right, Ms. Hash. So as I explained, this is your opportunity to tell the board anything that you want them to consider for purposes of issuing a decision in this matter. Just keep your voice up. The microphone's in front of me. And just speak a little more slowly than you would normally speak in a conversation, just so we can all hear you and our court reporter can make sure he gets down to everything you say. All right, you may begin.
Good morning, my name is Jamie Hash. I'm here because I've completed 2 years and 3 months of my probation that was issued as 3 years. I've adhered to or completed all of the terms of my probation. I've paid all of the fines. I've had no new arrests or problems since. I've submitted to every random drug and alcohol test that's been asked. They've all been negative. Exhibit 4 has my psych evaluation, in which the evaluator deemed no mental health issues or disorders, and that I was fit to practice. My current therapist reduced what was given as a term was weekly therapy appointments. She reduced it to monthly because she had no diagnosis of any disorders or current concerns. I had multiple job offers while being on probation. Catholic Charities of the East Bay, Access Community Health, both gave me job offer letters and wanted to hire me. But then when they saw the probation, they said they can't hire me. by the grace of God, I was hired by Fig Tree Counseling, which is a private practice. It's not really.
Sorry, the name of that?
Yes, it's called Fig Tree Counseling Center, and it's based in LA. And he hired me. It's part-time work, and I do telehealth therapy with clients that are in the LA community, and it's all remote on the video. So I do currently work for them, and I enjoy it. It's only part-time though, with no benefits. And essentially, I just love working in the community, and I've had so many full-time jobs where I'm actually working directly with the public and feel like I'm helping more and doing more and actually providing services to people that need it. And since being on probation, nonprofits and organizations in the community that do this type of work don't want to hire me. And I would love to have the ability to be hireable again and do what I love to do. That's it.
All right. Ms. Salamola-Latif, do you have any questions?
Yes. All right, looking at your written statement contained in Exhibit 3, if you look at Exhibit 3, I'm referring to what's marked on the bottom as page 023.
Yes.
Okay. So it looks like it's 3 pages long, and it was originally written and signed on July 27, 2021. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you, in writing, you kind of wrote on the bottom that you reviewed it and initialed it on November 13, 2023, correct?
Correct.
So does that indicate that everything in this letter is still current and true?
Yes. Correct.
In your letter, you state that you declined the breathalyzer test because it was your understanding that if you haven't been drinking that much, taking the blood test is smarter. Your blood alcohol content was 0.18%, which is twice the legal limit, more than twice the legal limit. Do you consider a blood alcohol content of 0.18% not that much?
No.
Okay. Do you believe you're an alcoholic?
No.
Do you believe you're an alcoholic at the time of your arrest?
No.
Your statement says that you attend AA daily. Is that still correct?
No. I don't believe it said daily. It was issued as twice per week.
So at the time you wrote the statement, that was prior to probation, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So when you're referring to twice a week, are you talking about your probation terms?
Correct. Which is, I started attending because my lawyer had recommended I started before.
Okay. So you started attending because of, on recommendation of your attorney, not on your own accord?
Correct.
And at the time of you started attending, how many days were you attending?
Twice per week.
And you still attend AA?
Yes.
Do you attend any AA in addition to what's required to your probation?
No.
If you are let off probation early, do you plan to continue attending AA?
Yes, because I do find it helpful in many ways as far as their discussion and talking about healthy coping skills. And because I do work with the public who do have issues with alcohol, I've learned so many additional skills and ways of communicating in the meetings, and I enjoy them.
I'm going to refer to page Exhibit 3, page 024, to third paragraph down. Second sentence says, these steps include a self-proclamation to stay sober, daily attendance at AA meetings. So when you wrote this letter, that was incorrect. That was not true.
I think that's a typo.
Is there any other typos that we should know about in your letter?
No.
Do you have a sobriety date?
No.
If you are let off probation early, do you plan to keep drinking?
Well, I haven't been drinking. Keep drinking.
Resume drinking.
I haven't decided yet. Oh, I said I haven't decided yet. Thank you.
If you're let off probation early, do you plan to continue receiving therapy?
Not at this time, because I don't have concerns that I talk about with a therapist that I'm not able to talk about with good supportive friends and family.
There are various different continuing education certificates that you submitted. Are those courses that you took because you were required to as part of your probation, or are those courses that you took in addition to probation requirements?
Those are all classes that I took as a requirement of my probation.
Have you taken any continuing education courses related to alcohol, substance abuse in addition that what was required by your probation?
No. I had additional continuing education classes of requirements that were part of renewing my license, and they were different content. I didn't choose to take more drug and alcohol related classes.
So your testimony was that you're in full compliance with your probation. Can you describe for the board anything that you have done in regards to rehabilitation above and beyond what the board has required for you to do in probation?
Could you repeat that question, please?
You briefly described some of your rehabilitation efforts. Do you have anything that you have done that you can explain to the board in regards to rehabilitative efforts above and beyond what the board has required as your probation terms?
I do think part of what I've done above and beyond the terms of my probation are becoming more involved in my church community, which I think is a very supportive place to be. And it is part of staying healthy and whole as an individual. And that's not part of the terms of my probation.
You agreed to serve 3 years of probation as part of the settlement agreement. Why should the board terminate your probation early?
Primarily because of the reasons that I began with. I've completed all of the things that were asked of me, and I believe I'm doing a great job, and I think that I'm an asset to the community, and I think that if I were able to get a full-time job where I'm actually working within the community, it would be better for the state of California, the Bay Area, and people that actually need help.
If you're let off probation early, what are your plans? Are your plans to go and seek full-time employment as you described in your initial statement?
Yes.
Do you have any other plans in regards to rehabilitative efforts and continuing on?
Yes, I'd like to continue doing the things I've been doing as far as not getting into trouble, not getting any continuing to attend AA meetings and just, yes. Did that answer your question?
Sure. So obviously the board is concerned about the drinking and driving. What are your plans if you do resume drinking? What are your plans in regards to how to prevent this type of incident from happening again?
Uber. I definitely learned my lesson with not drinking and driving. That's not something I'll ever do again.
No further questions at this time.
Sorry, I'm now going to ask our board members if they have any questions, starting to my right with our vice chair.
Thank you. It's Ms. Hosh? Correct. Hosh, okay. With your, you said you learned your lesson with drinking and driving. Like the start of the incident was your reaction to a difficult situation with a friend. So how do you plan on, modifying how you respond to those difficult situations to prevent the outcome that you had in this case?
Well, I think, first of all, not drinking as much as I was drinking that night. If I were to resume drinking, it would be 1 or 2 drinks. That night, we were all drinking wine together as a group. And then I started drinking more with this particular friend, and it was too much. So definitely drinking in moderation. And I wouldn't be in that state where I were making that decision.
Okay. All right, I think that's my only question right now. I'll move on.
Hi, Justin Huff. Thank you for being here, first of all, because it's a challenging situation, so thank you. It's stressful. I have a few questions, just clarification. My first question is about clarification. So you completed these CE hours. I just want to make sure that this is what I am seeing is correct. It looks like you completed 20 hours on the 10th of the month and 13 hours on the 11th. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you completed the 33 hours in 2 days. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And you are 2 1/3 years into this. I'm wondering, beyond a full-time job, what sort of changes you would experience if your probation ends early?
Other changes in my life?
Yeah, so beyond the potential for getting a full-time job, which I think what you're highlighting, are there any other changes that you would experience?
Well, I think my whole life would be different when I'm able to start working full-time again, because then I would be back in the community instead of working from home as I currently am part-time. So I would be more active in the community.
And when you're saying active in the community, can you talk a little about what that looks like?
Yes, so previously when I've had full-time jobs, I've been working for nonprofits, and I actually go to work physically to a different location, and I'm working in the community. Most of my jobs have been with the homeless populations in San Francisco, Oakland, and Berkeley. So it's daytime hours where I go and I'm actually face-to-face working with clients. Currently, I only do telehealth therapy where I'm working from home, looking at a computer. And it's not as enjoyable or rewarding as actually working directly face-to-face with clients.
Great, thank you. You talked about learning some useful skills, both in your written piece and today. Can you talk about what specific skills you've learned?
With the AA meetings? So, yes, they talk a lot about I think I need a moment to think about that.
Sorry.
Oh, I said I think I need a moment to think about that, please.
Yeah, we can
reflect,
we
because
can come back to that if you want.
yeah, because I've learned so much, I don't know exactly which ones to highlight right now.
Sure, understandable. One area that we are interested in is obviously consumer protection. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how your therapeutic work may look different now compared to before you were on probation, other than the fact that you're doing telehealth.
It looks different now because currently I'm working telehealth with clients that are in LA, not even part of my community. I'm in Oakland. I have a small handful of private practice clients who pay out of pocket. Kids and teens, their parents are paying. Different socioeconomic class, different issues. And when I previously was was not on probation before. I was working full-time for nonprofits and things. I was working with people, clients in the community that have more severe needs, a lot of dual diagnosis work. And it just seems the need is far greater when I'm working with the clients or not, like within the nonprofit community. And I enjoy that. I enjoy serving a population that's underserved, that actually needs help and appreciates the resources.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. In your written piece, the end of the second to last paragraph, you note, quote, "I've examined how alcohol impairs my decision-making abilities and negatively affects my usual keen judgment."
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about how what you've learned about alcohol impairing your decision-making?
Yes. So it just negatively affects all brain operations. And I do think that I'm a smart person with good judgment. And I think that this night and just generally, like the use of alcohol, it doesn't help anybody make good decisions. So that's what I'm saying, yes. I think that it obviously impairs everybody's ability to make decisions. And specifically, I wrote that because I understand that about alcohol. I'm not saying that alcohol is good in any way. I totally understand that drinking alcohol is not good for judgment making capabilities.
Yeah, so given that it is negatively affecting all brain operations, help me understand why you're unsure if you're continuing to use or not use alcohol.
Because I would like to enjoy a glass of wine with Thanksgiving meals instead of, like, for the past 2 years and 3 months, I'll go to family gatherings and people do a toast and I can't even participate. And we're in California and sometimes a glass of wine would be really nice with a meal where people are gathering and enjoying pairing wine with good food and things like that. And I definitely would never drink this amount again in my life.
So what is your ideal alcohol use moving forward?
Like I said, 1 glass of wine with a meal with family and friends to be enjoyed with food.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Hash. I'm Dr. Annette Walker. I'm a public board member. I appreciate your testimony this morning. Just have one follow-up question. You were asked about your choices in continuing AA and also therapy. I clearly heard what your choices are moving forward. So with that in mind, I just wanted to ask you if you would share a little bit more about your support network as you go through this process, what it has been and what you see it to be in the future.
So I believe I have really good friends and family. Not a lot of friends, but at least a handful of good friends I can call whenever I want to talk about things. I have a very supportive family, mom and dad that love me, I love them. I check in with them on a weekly basis. I have 2 older brothers that really care about me and love me. And I think I have a great support network that cares about me and I care about them and I keep in close contact with them. I also have a church community that I check in with and meet with on a regular basis. And I think that those people are supportive in my life and are able to communicate with me when I'm wanting to communicate or, in a human manner, connect with people. And I think that the mandated therapy, it's with somebody who isn't my friend or family. It's somebody that I'm paying. It's a different scenario. And I appreciate talking to my friends and family more at this time. I understand the benefit of therapy, obviously, that's why I do it. But I don't have issues in my life that I don't feel comfortable talking to with a family or friend more than a therapist. So I just enjoy the connection with my family and friends more than the therapist I have, or more than I would want to go seek out a different therapist. That's why I would want to continue, yeah.
Okay, and so you chose to continue with AA if your probation is granted, your request is granted. Why?
I'd like to continue because I do enjoy attendance at the meetings, and I have learned a lot, and I appreciate what they talk about in the dialogue. I remember I never got back to his questions, maybe that's still later. But they just talk about useful, helpful things and connect about things that are good.
So what I hear you saying is the knowledge and education that you gain, not so much of the physical connection with other potential, I don't know, friends that you might meet. It's not that, it's the knowledge that you're gaining.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering my questions.
Yes, and usually when I'm attending the AA meetings, I do the online ones. I don't go in person.
Got it. That's important too. Thank you for clarifying that.
Hi, I'm Abigail Ortega, LCSW. Thank you so much, Ms. Hash, for your testimony today. I want to explore a little bit more about your experience with AA, because you say you really enjoy it. Do you have like a specific 12-step, one of the steps that you can talk about that you felt you used, right, throughout these two years and 3 months?
I haven't chosen to work the steps.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite step. No.
And did you connect with a sponsor?
I initially tried to connect with a sponsor because I was participating and I thought I'd go with the program. The person that I picked as a sponsor seemed to be more, I don't know how to describe it right now, had more issues than I do, and it did not seem beneficial to me.
Okay. And you didn't have like the option of switching to someone else that you could have more chemistry with?
Yeah, I could have, but it's something that I chose not to do because I just didn't think it would be beneficial for me to start doing that work with somebody that is an alcoholic, that has experienced all of these things that I don't connect with as much.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear your perspective. So I know that, and I think Wendy mentioned it, like you had a conflict, right, with a friend or with someone. I read the letter from that person who holds you in high regard, and said it was like a conflict that occurred. So it was like a stressful situation, right? Is there any strategies you developed to navigate situations like that?
Yes. The first is not drinking to that level. And the second is just better communication, more calm, direct communication about things.
And how has this experience impacted you as a clinician and how you work with your clients, right? I know it's telehealth, it's private practice, is not what you're used to, but right, they're clients nonetheless, and they're coming to you and you're going through this experience. So how, like, any insights, or has there been a shift in how you connect with others?
So one change that I've learned and that's happened is, for the first time I went to jail, and I literally was in a jail cell and arrested. That's never happened to me before in my life. So now I feel like I've gained insight about what it must feel like to be on the other side of the law. I've worked with a lot of people who have been in the criminal justice system, and I don't understand how that is to serve a sentence of 20 years or something like that. I only know what it was like to spend 9 hours, and it was horrible. So I feel like the way that being in jail makes somebody feel that's very, very helpless and very, like, you have no power. I should say, I had no power. It was like the weirdest feeling to be arrested and locked into a cell like that. So I think it helped me gain insight about what it must be like to be somebody that's arrested and actually having to serve time and be on that, in that position. And it's something I don't ever want to happen again. Like, I've talked to friends about this, like, one and done. Like, I'm not cut out for jail, and I don't want to get in any more trouble the rest of my life.
Okay, good. It's a good goal for all of us. Okay.
All right, and so remember, we're not making comments, you're only allowed to ask questions, okay?
All right, well, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Hi. So you had mentioned you don't have a sponsor currently and you have friends and family. Do you have any specific like accountability plan for? So I mentioned that she had mentioned that she doesn't have a sponsor, and I had asked if she has a specific accountability plan for, you know, say drinking or, I mean, I know you mentioned not drinking and better communication. Is there anything else you have put in place? Do you have a specific accountability plan for maybe not getting back into the situation of drinking? I know you said you wouldn't drive, but is there anything else if you start to go down that road?
Well, I think it's the self-accountability of knowing that I will only drink with, like, as I explained before. Yes, I would like to enjoy a glass of wine with a meal. And it's the self-accountability of knowing that that's it. And then also being around people who know that I've already gotten into trouble and wouldn't ever want to see me experience this again. So I do have accountability with my friends and family, yes. People that look out for me.
Okay, and how can or does this experience impact your treatment with clients who have substance abuse or alcohol issues?
Yeah, it has impacted it a lot. It's more insight because of what I've heard at the meetings. I worked for 2.5 years at Options Recovery Services. And that was prior to this experience. And when I was working with those clients who did have issues with drugs and alcohol, I didn't understand as much of their experience as I do now because of being through this myself and then also listening to all these AA meetings. I just had more insight about the actual struggle that it is to have issues with drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
I'm Tash, Dr. Boyd, LPCC. I have maybe a lot of my questions were answered already, but there's one that I would be curious, maybe if I may ask you is, if you were to sit on the other side just for a moment over here, and with the mission in mind of consumer protection, right? Is there anything you feel like you would want to say that would be really important for us to walk away with from your testimony today?
Yes. I think that it would be helpful to keep in mind that I wasn't drinking on the job. I wasn't drinking when I was anywhere near any clients. This was an isolated event that happened late at night when I was with friends. It had nothing to do with my job or clients or my career.
As you kind of move forward, and should you be granted, an early termination of your probation, there's been some discussion a little bit about the ambivalence about staying in AA or not, and then resuming drinking or not, given the judgment. And certainly, I think the psych eval you have points to that you don't necessarily have a problem per se, right, in terms of a clinical problem. But I guess the question that still sort of lingers for me is in moments of stress, how confident do you feel in your ability to manage without maybe turning to another lapse in judgment, which certainly I think this sounds like an isolated incident.
Very confident.
How so? Can you elaborate just a little bit?
Well, I don't think I ever turned to drugs and alcohol to relieve any sort of stress or anxiety. It was never one of my go-to coping skills. This was a night when I was having fun with friends, and it did, yes, I drank too much, yes, it went too far, but I've never used drugs and alcohol as a coping skill or turned to it in moments of stress. I've never been that sort of drinker. So, yes, I feel very confident in my ability to manage my own life.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions. Thank you.
All right, to my left.
John Silbeck, I'm an FT. Hi, yes, we're still asking questions. Thank you, Bernie. Hi. I want to go back to Mr. Huff brought up the question about the CE units. And I do have a question about that. So when we consider CEU units, we usually count each one as an hour. So we're looking that on 510, you took 20 hours of CEU and, education. And on 511, you took 13 hours of CEU education. Can you tell me what you learned from that and how you managed to do 20 CEU hours in one day?
Yes. So I did online courses, and I do have at the time I had a busy schedule, and I waited too long to actually do this, and I had a deadline that I had to meet. I took online classes. It was things I had already known. It was the content were classes I've already had, things I've already learned. So it was easy to read over the material and test.
What would you say you learned from those units?
I have to refer to my binder.
Go ahead, just tell us what you're looking at.
No, I mean the actual content that I printed out before I took the test.
Would looking at the certificates refresh your memory?
There's a lot, yes. Which section is it in?
Is it in Exhibit 3? Take a look at Exhibit 3.
Yes, for example, early intervention, treatment, and management of substance use disorder. Learning how to see the signs of substance use, the treatment modalities, substance misuse. They were like categorizing like what's problem drinking, what's binge drinking, what's things like that. The Book of Ethics, Expert Guidance for Professionals Who Treat Addiction. Those are like all ethical codes that I had already known from my training.
So
anger management was a good one. I really like anger management strategies, and CBT is my favorite, so that was a good one.
Okay. So looking over, part of your stipulated settlement was to take these units and hopefully learn something from them. So just in a very general energy, what would you say you took away from this additional education on substance use disorders?
I took away more early warning signs and just ways of treatment. It's sort of things that I've used at Options Recovery Services and things that I like to use with clients that are struggling.
Going back into some of the documents, you have a letter from, I think it's Ian, and in that letter, they actually talk openly about the incident. They actually used a phrase say that they take responsibility for part of that evening and the result of it as well. I thought it was a very powerful letter. I also read your statement, which you had re-signed on November 23, saying this is what you wanted to say. And when I looked through there, I didn't see the phrase actually in saying that you also took responsibility for that evening. And I'm curious about, do you feel you have responsibility for that evening? And where do you think that goes in your trying to come into early termination of probation?
I absolutely take responsibility for that evening. It was me who got into my car and drove that car. It was definitely me, myself, and I, and my own bad judgment. And yes, I do take complete responsibility.
Okay.
Complete responsibility.
Okay. And then finally, we all keep digging into this question, and I still haven't heard it in a way that I understand where you're coming from with it. In your personal statement, once again, the one you re-signed on the 23rd that says, this is what I'm saying in this particular hearing, you have this phrase, self-initiated rehabilitation, and these steps include a self-proclamation to stay sober, daily. Oh, sorry.
When you read much faster than
I always talk fast too.
Just take a deep breath.
Okay. So self-initiated rehabilitation steps. And these steps include a self-proclamation to stay sober, daily attendance at AA meetings, weekly personal therapy, as well as regular acupuncture and chiropractic care to stay as healthy as possible. So as of November 23rd, you were saying these are statements of how I'm going to take care of myself. And yet we keep trying to find from you, you seem to disagree with everything you wrote in that statement. You're saying you would like to continue drinking. You may or may not attend AA. You're not going to be continuing personal therapy. So you've introduced this as evidence, but you're saying actually that none of it is stuff you're really committed to following through on. So could you help me understand a little bit better?
I think at the time, because this all happened, I was committed to staying sober and doing all these things to get my life back on track. And the only part of that, and maybe I should look at it before I say this, but the only part that there's still things that I'll do. I'll do chiropractic care. I've learned new meditation strategies. Definitely will take care of myself in a good, healthy way. And I think that I'm not going against what I said at that time, but it's the degree to which, like the attendance at AA meetings twice a week and weekly therapy, those are things that I don't necessarily think that I need in my life right now. And would like to do them because I think that it was helpful at the time, and I think that I know how to take care of myself, and they're not things that I would like to have a choice to be able to do them and not be mandated to do them.
Thank you.
No questions?
Any questions?
Yes, Jimmy, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate hearing your story. You said that you don't have a sobriety date and you intend to continue drinking. And I'm just wondering if this whole experience of probation, which is supposed to be rehabilitation, that you look at as rehabilitation or as punishment.
It's a great question. It actually felt more like punishment in many ways because of the whole procedure of it, and especially the check-ins and things like that. That's something I've never experienced before, to have to go on my phone every single morning onto a website that sometimes doesn't even work and have to see if I'm gonna be tested today. It didn't feel like, it felt more like punishment in many ways than it did rehabilitative, because I don't even believe that I am an alcoholic or had a serious alcohol condition. It was like one night, bad decision, and I feel like the whole experience was very punitive in many ways. The amount of, it's been a lot, and yes, I understand the meaning for the rehab if somebody is needing it. But I think in my circumstance, I definitely made a bad decision. I messed up. I deserve all of the things I had to do. Like I understand that I should have made better decisions that night. But I think that the way, like everything, it's just been so much. It didn't feel helpful or supportive. It felt more like punishment than it did a rehabilitative effort where it feels like they're trying to help in like a kind way. It felt very like scary and mean.
So now, after time has passed.
Yes.
Are you able to look back on it and without being just super angry at yourself, are you able to say that there were some good things that you got out of this?
Yes. Yes. There have been many good things I've gotten out of this.
Sorry.
Yes.
I mean, what just quickly, what do you think you've gained?
Well, I think I've gained insight about just drinking in general. I think that I've learned a lot of things at the meetings. I think going through this long, just being very focused and it's definitely helped me realize how much I value what I do. And even the fact that I spent almost 40 grand to get a lawyer and not just walk away from my license. I love doing what I do. And I've put in a lot of time to try to keep my license to do what I love to do. And I think it made me feel more determined to continue in the path that I'm on and just, I guess, not get into any more trouble ever.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Alamola-Latif, any follow-up questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Hash, is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
No.
All right, any closing remarks, Ms. Alamola-Latif?
Do not have a recommendation.
All right, any closing remarks? Any last words for the board?
No, and thank you for listening.
All right, is the matter submitted? Matter is submitted for the board's consideration?
Thank you.
Yes. All right, matter is submitted and the record is closed. We are off the record. All right, thank you. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the board is going to now move into closed session. Once we conclude our closed session, the board will be taking a lunch break and plan to resume the open session to conduct the diversity, equity, and inclusion supplemental strategic planning.
Please be sure to project your voice because it's pretty quiet. Thank you so much.
What I plan out to everybody really want. Yes, because I was in a whole bunch of.
We good to start?
We all
Good. Yeah, I think we have everything.
Okay. All right. Welcome back. We have a next item on the agenda is diversity, equity, and inclusion supplemental planning session. And I think Steve is going to start with some background on this.
I think, yeah. So this was actually, you're probably going to give it a little background. Okay, she's probably going to explain it a little bit better than I can. Sorry, I think I might have had that on the script. I should have edited it. So, good job.
All right. I like standing. Welcome to the Board of Behavioral Sciences Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Supplemental Planning Session. And we will be abbreviating diversity, equity, and inclusion as DEI since it's That's a mouthful. My name is Tricia St. Clair. I am a strategic business analyst and facilitator with Solid Planning, and I'm here today with Mr. Ronnie. I am also a strategic business analyst and facilitator with Solid. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So our role today is to act as a neutral party. We're not affiliated or we don't represent licensees. We don't represent DBS or DCA. We're a neutral party to provide structure to this process. Part of that structure is typing. So we will be typing your brainstorming today. We will check for understanding. And don't worry if you see spelling or grammatical errors. What we're creating today is a draft. You'll have time, the board staff will have time to edit it. We will be editing it afterwards. So if you see any typos or grammatical issues, you don't have to worry about those. We'll take care of them. So our hope is that we can minimize distractions. We're hoping to keep this to 2 hours. So if you could just focus, that would be great. This is brainstorming, so we want to focus on all contributions, no matter how far out the theme. We hope everyone participates, please, and we hope people can reach consensus. And by that, I mean, ask yourself, if you're not wild about something, ask yourself if you can live with it. And if the answer is yes, then we hope you'll be okay. So our agenda, that looks huge. It's not as bad as it seems. Our agenda is to watch 2 DEI videos. One video has been produced by Solid Training. The other is a message from the Department of Consumer Affairs Director, Kim Kirkmeyer. The 2 videos together take about 20 minutes. Then we will quickly go over the purpose of strategic planning, how the DEI supplemental planning process went. We'll review the DEI supplemental environmental plan results, and then you'll have an opportunity to possibly edit existing objectives to your current plan that are still in progress or haven't been started yet. And you may not have any changes to make to those. And then you'll also have the opportunity to possibly create some new objectives based on trends or priorities that were identified in the environmental, DEI environmental plan. So with that, we will go to the videos, and I need to sit down and click on some things to get these started. So one moment. Sorry. Pardon us, it's a little tricky to show videos.
My name is Lisa Bacon, Training Manager with the Department of Consumer Affairs Solid Training and Planning Solutions team. I'm excited to bring today's training video about diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI, to all of you. My training experience in DEI goes back to 2015 across multiple departments, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to support DCA's DEI efforts. What does DEI mean? That's the title of today's training video and is truly reflective of what we will cover. The training content was collaboratively built using resources, research, and training with the goal to further our understanding of this important topic. This training video will provide a foundation of the general concepts understanding, and importance of DEI. The Solid team is honored and excited to be a part of DCA's DEI initiatives, and we will continue to expand our commitment to DEI through both training and learning. I'm also proud to share this year, every Solid trainer will be DEI certified, and more DEI trainings are on the horizon. I expect this will only be the beginning of exciting things to come for DCA. So now, let's get into it. What does DEI mean? Our learning objectives for this training will be to understand what diversity means and who it relates to, why it's necessary to choose equity versus equality. We'll discuss the benefits reflected in our work culture when we practice inclusion, and I'll share several examples of how to integrate DEI. I think it's important to mention this training's alignment with our mission statement, which is to advance a diverse, equitable, and inclusive California Department of Consumer Affairs for all. To understand diversity, we first need to define what it means. Diversity is all the characteristics and experiences which define each of us as individuals and the groups to which we belong. Often there's a mindset which associates diversity with only individuals who fall under the protected classes. Diversity is relevant and inclusive of every human being based on each aspect of our lives. We're multi-dimensional beings, which makes us diversely unique. Race and ethnicity are frequently misunderstood. People don't always recognize or identify themselves with one simplistic and usually limited category listed on a demographic questionnaire. To shed some light on this, here are the definitions. Race is biological and refers to groups of people often based on physical characteristics such as the color of their skin. Ethnicity is a broader term than race, and it's your cultural identity. It's chosen or learned from your culture and family experiences, such as a certain custom, traditions, and languages you've been exposed to within the group you feel you belong. Someone might say their race is Black, yet they associate their ethnicity with Portuguese. Or another person might say their race is white and their ethnicity is Irish. I'm a fan of this diversity iceberg because I feel it's a good representation of human diversity. Above the waterline, we can only see about 20 to 30% of an iceberg. The other 70 to 80% is below the surface. When we first interact with someone, there are features we can quickly identify in a short amount of time, such as their body language, an accent when they speak, possibly their gender, and how they're dressed. But these only represent very limited and sometimes inaccurate characteristics of the person. There are numerous layers and dimensions to who we really are, such as our education, sexual orientation, work ethic, strengths, life experiences, and personality traits. And it's impossible to identify these core attributes within a person until we've invested the time to find out. And this is when unconscious bias comes into play, above the surface, when our brains quickly respond to a person or group of people simply based on limited external perceptions. Our brain is biologically wired to rapidly intake information all around us to determine our safety. It's the mechanism which activates our fight or flight response. This is also known as implicit bias. It's an unconscious response and inherent to all humans. We're exposed to influences from an early age based on our environment, our family, education from schools, community, television, movies, marketing, and one of the most powerful influences in our culture today is social media. Because of these unconscious influences, our brains begin to form stereotypes about the society around us. People who look or act a certain way are categorized in our minds based on these mental intakes. Have you ever had that gut feeling when you've been around someone for 5 seconds? It's important to listen to our intuition, but this becomes a problem when we have a strong reaction to someone based on very limited information. We want to trust that feeling and sometimes revere it as a superpower, but we need to make sure we pause and ask ourselves truthfully What prompted those feelings? This is why unconscious bias tends to have a negative connotation. It is how our brains work, but we have to hold ourselves accountable for how we respond, especially when it's based on an unfair judgment. If we're brave enough to ask and listen to how we've impacted the people around us, we can become more aware of our own biases and reprogram our brain's response system. Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Now I want to talk about the E in DEI and the difference between equality versus equity. Equality happens when we provide the same, equal treatment to everyone, and it can feel fair. When we choose to give equity, we create pathways to equal outcomes by recognizing that some people and communities have unequal starting points. This picture reflects what it looks like when we give everyone equal resources. Our intentions may be good, but when we check in and ask people how they're doing, we'll find out not everyone was able to participate. If we check in with people first and find out what they need, it levels the playing field for everyone to succeed. Equality is often related to what most of us know as the golden rule. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. But what you need to succeed can look very different from the people around you. Equity is a verb and a choice. We should all practice the platinum equity rule, which is ask people what they need, then choose to give it so they feel respected. We all deserve respect. Aretha Franklin sang it best. RESPECT, find out what it means to me. I love this quote from Maya Angelou. She says, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And this is when inclusion comes in. Inclusion is the practice it takes to create a positive work environment where the differences of every team member is recognized, understood, and valued. Inclusion is about building trust within our working relationships. One attempt isn't going to automatically change everything, and it's not always easy because we don't automatically know what everyone needs or how people prefer to engage. Inclusion takes time and practice. The key is we need to be curious, ask, listen, and invite the people you serve to provide input. Don't just ask for their feedback after the project is said and done. Give everyone involved a voice and a seat at the table. When we practice inclusion, it lifts morale. Retention increases because people like coming to work. When people feel valued and heard, they're innovative, which inspires collaboration within teams, and DCA becomes a destination employer. Simon Sinek believes the role of a leader is not to come up with all the great ideas. The role of a leader is to create an environment in which great ideas can happen. How can we create inclusive engagement? Hold meetings regularly, then give people options for how to communicate and provide input. In work groups, extroverts tend to speak up and sometimes dominate conversations. If an introvert or analytical person who needs a little more time to problem solve isn't given an opportunity, great ideas and insight can be lost. Groupthink, also known as conformity bias, can quickly contaminate a group when everyone's voice isn't heard and understood. When a special assignment or project is given, make sure the goals and expectations are clear. Give everyone on the team an opportunity to learn and grow from a special assignment. Create a mentoring opportunity by pairing someone more experienced with someone who's new to the project. This knowledge transfer is ideal for succession planning. There is a DEI section in the Strategic Planning Environmental Scan. It will centralize input on DEI matters and contain demographic information collected. This section can help further inform the board as it considers impacts of policy decision. Our mission is to provide outstanding support services, oversight, and innovative solutions to boards and bureaus that regulate California professionals and vocations so that through this partnership, all Californians are informed, empowered and protected. Our vision, together protecting California consumers. Our values, accountability, communication, diversity, employees, integrity, leadership, service, and transparency. As a board, you should ensure that your mission, vision, and values supports change and evolves to meet the needs of all Californians. We want all Californians to feel accepted in seeking services we provide. As board members, you are the leaders of the industry you regulate. In this next section, we will discuss actionable areas to incorporate DEI in 4 areas: policy, licensing, enforcement, and outreach. In policy, we need to ask ourselves if the decisions we are considering will lead to the success of everyone involved. Reflect on who will benefit from or be burdened by the proposal or decision being considered. Are the needs of one demographic different from another geographic group? Think equity. What data or metrics will you use to evaluate the impacts of your decisions? Leverage methods that increase public input and engagement, such as workshops, surveys, and multilingual communications. Actively engage with diverse and underserved communities. Reach out to associations, colleges, interested parties, other licensing or regulatory bodies. Utilize the strategic planning process. Review information collected through the new environmental scans, which incorporate DEI questions. In licensing, when licensees reflect communities they serve, it expands access to all. Use plain language. Simplify communication so it's easy to understand and complete. Expand multilingual resources for applicants and consumers. Consider additional pathways to gain experience and/or education for licensure. Expand outreach for subject matter experts to ensure the exam development process is inclusive. When it comes to enforcement, drive fair outcomes and protect the vulnerable. Review enforcement data and trends. Update enforcement policies, processes, and procedures to mitigate unintended consequences to impacted populations through increased engagement with consumers, stakeholders, and communities. When you build your team, consider the needs of all the communities we serve. Do you need more bilingual staff? Do you need additional staff in certain areas of the state? Expand your outreach through HR, job fairs, and inquire about other opportunities you may not have considered before. As you begin to integrate DEI, remember you can't take the bias from the person, but you can remove the bias from the process. Through outreach, you can increase access and opportunity when you reach and meet people where they're at. Do you know what the second most common language in California is? Spanish. So when you translate resource materials based on the people you serve, you expand language access. Develop multilingual communications for social media posts, applications, forms, and other resources you provide. Publish written and video testimonials from your diverse consumers, which reflect their age, race, gender, and cultural differences. As you begin to integrate DEI, remember to leverage all the resources available to you at DCA. The Equal Employment Opportunity Office administers the American Sign Language and Real-Time Captioning Services contract. The EEO office conducts the department-wide language survey to identify the public it serves, the languages spoken, and the bilingual resources available at DCA to ensure equal access is provided for all consumers. The Consumer Information Center administers a contract that provides phone language services to consumers in over 200 languages. The Office of Human Resources administers the bilingual pay program, including the establishment of bilingual positions. The Office of Publications, Design, and Editing coordinates requests for the translation of written materials. The Solid Training and Planning Solutions offers DEI-related trainings, surveys, meeting facilitation, and development of strategic plans. The Office of Professional Examination Services offers examination translation and adaptation services. I want to share one of the many examples of how the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology has integrated DEI.
The California Board of Barbering and Cosmetology celebrates the ever-changing diversity of California's consumers and licensees,
so we can establish a quorum.
Which is why the board has made a concerted effort to expand on its language accessibility. Here are some of our achievements. Upon request, each individual that visits the board in person is given the opportunity to access an interpreter via the language line phone service if the individual does not feel they are able to effectively communicate with board staff. Let's take a look.
Good morning. How can I help you?
Tôi không nói tiếng Anh.
Okay. Is there another language that you prefer? Do you see one on this list?
Tôi nói tiếng Việt.
Okay.
A unit within the Department of Consumer Affairs called the Consumer Information Center, or CIC, provides phone agents who assist consumers and licensees in English, Spanish, and more than 240 other languages with the assistance of a third-party vendor via the toll-free number 1-800-952-5210. Phone agents usually serve as the public's first point of contact. They provide many services to both consumers and licensees. CIC phone agents answer nearly 1 million calls per year. The board provides 3 additional language access pages in Spanish, Vietnamese, and Korean languages on its website, www.barbercosmo.ca.gov. The English homepage has the option for Google Translate. Almost every publication, form, bulletin, and trifold the board provides is translated into Spanish, Vietnamese, and Korean. Items such as the self-inspection worksheet and the what to expect when you're inspected trifold are available in these languages. Select videos such as foot spa cleaning and disinfecting have been translated into the Vietnamese language and posted to the board's website.
Hi, my name is Kai with the State Board. I'm here doing inspection.
When inspecting salons with Vietnamese-speaking individuals where violations have been found, inspectors utilize a translated violation cover sheet, which contains a simplified, translated explanation of select common violations. Citations that are issued to nail salons are provided in both the English and Vietnamese languages to the establishment owner. Board inspectors, exam site staff, and headquarters staff receive updated, specialized training on how to utilize an interpreter via the language line phone service to address language access situations found in their respective job roles. Interpreters are provided free of charge to petitioners in disciplinary review hearings upon request, so that each licensee can fully understand their hearing and the additional information provided at the hearing. The California Board of Barbering and Cosmetology is dedicated to providing all individuals with meaningful access to the board's services, programs, and activities. We are working hard to expand our language access, and will continue to do so.
When we think about DEI, remember diversity is a fact, equity is a choice, inclusion is an action, and the outcome is belonging. UC Berkeley's Others and Belonging Institute states, belonging describes values and practices where no person is left out of the circle of concern. Belonging means more than having just access. It means having a meaningful voice and the opportunity to participate. We need to make sure our efforts aren't just transactional. They need to be transformative, and it will take time. So remember, DEI is a journey, not a destination.
And we have one more video, it's shorter.
In 2022, Governor Newsom issued an executive order directing state agencies and departments to build upon the state's efforts to advance equity by taking new concrete actions to address disparities and expand opportunity for all Californians. The governor's executive order builds upon and strengthens the state's commitment to a California for all. We all have an important role in this effort. As you develop your board's strategic plan, building in and embedding diversity, equity, and inclusion into the goals and objectives is one of the most effective ways we can make progress and produce results with long-lasting impacts. The work that the boards and bureaus do touches the lives of every Californian. That is why it is so important to take into account every Californian when building out the board's mission, vision, values, and goals. The department's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Steering Committee and the SOLID team are available as a resource to help you in meeting those goals. Thank you for being a part of making our department a diverse, equitable, and inclusive California Department of Consumer Affairs for all.
All right. So as you just heard, in support of the governor's order in 1622, DCA is incorporating DEI into its policies and procedures, and part of that is including DEI in the strategic planning process. So that is where the DEI supplement came into play. This is a quick overview of the DEI supplemental planning process. And the reason why you're having a supplement is because at the time of your original strategic planning, this wasn't in place. So that's why we're doing this now. The arrow shows where we are today. So today we are, we'll be reviewing the environmental scan results. We will be looking at current objectives that are still in progress or not yet started to see if maybe DEI can be added to them. And then we're also considering the DEI environmental scan and whether or not any priorities identified there should be added to new objectives. So part of our incorporating DEI into our strategic planning process included adding DEI questions to our surveys and interviews. So these questions probably sound familiar to you because you were asked them in your interviews. So how can BBS have different perspectives about ideas and priorities? How can BBS mitigate unnecessary requirements or barriers to licensure? How can BBS conduct outreach and connection to all Californians? And how can it further equal access to opportunity? You had a phenomenal response to your DEI survey. Over 2,000 people responded, which some programs did not have such a tremendous response. So you had a great amount of data to identify trends. So that's wonderful. Your roles and responsibilities today. So we always say the strategic direction of the board rests in the hands of those involved today. No pressure. Consumer protection is the mandate. Please remember that. And also remember, if you add any objectives, please consider that it will be the staff that carry out these objectives. And the staff has limited time and resources. So you just want to make sure you don't get too carried away. So your tools to work with today are your expertise. The 2024 BBS DEI Supplemental Environmental Scan. You should have all received that at least a week before today. We hope you had a chance to look at it. I do have a couple of copies here with me if anyone wants to reference it. We also hope that you received a DEI supplemental workbook and that you had a chance to write some things in it in advance to today. So how this will go is, as I mentioned, you'll get a chance to review current objectives from your strategic plan that are in progress or haven't been started yet. You'll be asked if you want to make any changes to include DEI, and you don't have to, but it's just we want you to look at them and see if maybe they could be added. And then, like I said, you might want to create some new objectives in each goal area. The things to consider are who will benefit or be burdened by any decisions. Are there needs of different demographic or geographical groups? Once implemented, how will the board be able to measure the effect on impacted populations? And what data or metrics will be used to evaluate the impact? So if you decide to create new objectives, how it will go is you will be asked to identify the issue or the topic, why address it, how the board can address it, and what your desired outcome is. And as you do that, we hope you follow the SMARTY methodology. So I'm sure you've heard of SMART goals, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, timely. With the SMARTY model, we add inclusive and equitable on the end. And we totally realize that not every objective can follow this model, but we hope that it can be a guide. And here we have a generic example of a DEI objective. This is not from BBS, it's just a generic example for enforcement. The issue or topic is untrained staff and lack of clear policy procedures. So why I addressed it is that there's inconsistent interpretation and application of laws. And how can it be addressed? Map current procedures, write clear policies and procedures, train staff. And then the desired outcome is policies are clarified, staff are trained, and there's consistency in the interpretation and application of laws. And then underneath that, you see the SMARTY model spelled out. So that's just an example. So the first goal area we'll look at is licensing. We'll take a look first at, so this should look familiar. I gave you all a printout that has this. This is just a really high level bulleted summary of trends that were identified by those 4 DEI questions. And it's just a reference tool that you can look at as we look at each of your goal areas. All right, so this is a completed objective. So we can be adding to that one. But this objective is still in progress. So it's open to submit edits if you are interested. I'll give you a chance to look at it. And again, it's perfectly fine if you look at that and say, no, I don't think it continues to be. So,
Hello. What are we doing?
Okay, so we're looking, thank you, Brad.
Okay.
We're looking at the existing objectives of your existing strategic plan, objectives that are either in progress or not yet completed, and seeing if there are any edits we want to make that would make them more DEI oriented. And you don't have to make any changes to them. We're just showing you them in case you look at it and say, well, actually, we could add this. So, yes.
So just an observation that might help with this process. So in the strategic plan itself, like, although this one might be something where it's like including diversity, equity, inclusion,
right.
If you look at 1.3, we've actually put that in as a mandate of the strategic plan as well. So it may be hard to give feedback on individuals if we don't have the scope of each section.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and if you want, I can just go through all the slides and then we can go back to this one because we do each goal area in chunks. So the next one.
Like 1.3 addresses that question.
Exactly. So I'll let you take a look at that.
You can also pull up the strategic plan. It's there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There you go.
Jeremy, keep going.
So this is 1.4.
That was mentioned in the stakeholder. 1.4 was mentioned in the stakeholder observations, though, right? Because
No, 1.4 also.
The stakeholders said they wanted more engagement directly with schools.
Yeah.
And I wonder if targeting schools that have historically low pass rates in licensing might be helpful.
Okay. So do you want to add something about targeting schools in this objective, or
I think 1.3 wouldn't it be?
do you think that would be covered by 1.3?
And also in goal 6, we have a whole section
Yeah.
dedicated to outreach as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which talks about connecting with schools and communication. So that's like,
Yeah.
that's in goal 6.
So I think, looking at the licensing ones, I see it, they're somewhat straightforward. I think maybe some of when we get to the outreach, I think there's probably some that we might be able to look at, but with the licensing process, we're doing the workforce group right now, and that's kind of addressing this 1.3, working through items in that. I don't know. I don't know if you guys want my opinion.
Absolutely.
No, but I think that is kind of addresses that. I don't know what else we could partner with other agency stakeholders. I mean, if you wanted to name some agencies in that, I mean, you could do that.
I think it's fine to keep it high level, because
Yeah.
with that, when you do your action planning.
The action steps are, yeah.
Exactly, where you drill down to those agencies. I think that is,
I think it's pretty good. I mean, honestly.
I would agree.
Can I ask something to that?
Sure.
Just a thought. To me, I see the goal and objective, but I'm not seeing the vehicle to move it. So that's a great idea, but how do you reach these communities? How do you, in agencies and stakeholders? And so to me, what's missing is social marketing, not social media, but social marketing. If, some.
Okay. So, we'll also give the opportunity to possibly add an objective or two. So maybe that's an objective to add is something, or it can be part of an action item for this particular objective. So that.
The social marketing to me it's an aspect of partnering.
Okay.
And actually,
well, and that's addressed in 6.2.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm thinking that I think on the level we have, I think my personal opinion is the goals are pretty solid. I think what would benefit maybe is like you're talking about the action items or the really looking at those action items and what, want us to look into social marketing or.
No, I appreciate that, because to me, we're wasting time here if we're not going to be able to adjust. If this is solid and done, what are we doing here?
This one is still in process.
Oh, yes. So what? Yeah, the goal has not been accomplished yet. So, but we do, if you look at like the strategic plan report, you'll see there's items maybe on some of these that they do have stuff. So it's still open. So if you're.
We need to understand what's open, because if
so we're only showing objectives that are either in progress or have not been completed yet.
But okay, I thought you just said this is done, pretty much done.
No. The ones that they're showing, the goals that they're showing are the ones that are still, there might be action items we're doing under them. There might be, there's other objectives under there, but it's still this goal. We haven't really said that we've completed it yet. So there's action items to look at. Do you mind? I mean, would that be appropriate?
But you don't want to hear that now. I'm confused.
We can take notes.
Yeah, I think we should, because then there's no freedom to share. Like, I don't have this whole thing memorized. So like, I don't know, I'm looking it up.
Yeah, it's on our website.
Annette, if it would help, I can come over and share the.
I have my laptop with me. I'm just missing the whole point here. Why am I?
Yeah. So.
What?
So our objectives our objectives are very high level. So what you want to achieve in a particular goal area, for example, if we're looking at the goal area of licensing, and then action planning is where we meet with staff and we look at an objective and the staff breaks it down tasks, like what tasks we need to accomplish
Okay.
or carry out in order to achieve this objective. And we assign those tasks to employees with target completion dates and a success measure.
Right. So, respectfully, because I think someone's already asked this. So what is it that you're hoping to get from us in this moment?
So we're hoping that as you review the existing objectives that have not yet been completed or started, you'll provide input as to whether or not you feel it could be more DEI oriented. And the answer may be no for all your objectives because some of them are quite inclusive. And then we will also brainstorm new objectives. The new objectives are going to be the results of the DEI environmental scan that was given to you to review before today and identified priorities that your stakeholders feel need to be addressed. And you've had your hand raised a lot. So
Do you want us to add to this right now or?
if you want to.
Because I was just thinking maybe agencies, stakeholders, and communities.
Okay.
Because I mean, I always think of agencies are like the high people, but I mean, the common people I'm looking for.
Okay. So agencies, stakeholders, and communities.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay. And that's the type of changes we're looking at for
Yeah,
the
that's-
objectives. That's exactly what we're looking
High level, but
Yeah.
with the inclusion or DEI aspect, kind of looking at that.
Oh, we're looking at the wording of the actual goal.
Yeah,
And
at. Objective, yes.
So that wasn't clear. Okay.
that's not a goal, that's an objective.
That's an objective, right?
And just a goal, okay.
Yeah. The goal area is licensing.
Okay.
And that's-
And just a quick question, when we say stakeholders, is that including the people under jurisdiction? Is that the, like CAMP and NASW? What do you consider stakeholders? How are you
I
defining that?
consider stakeholders everyone. I mean, everyone. I mean, that's and nationally, state. I mean, associations. For me, a stakeholder. You are stakeholders to me. I'm a stakeholder. I mean, that's how I envision stakeholders. But I think the addition of communities is kind of a nice addition to. It kind of points out, being it's a pretty hefty goal to reach out to the communities. It's definitely does, that in there. I think it's,
Like something I see on that is like in Fresno, that's where I live. There's Hmong communities or Latino communities, and you can just go saying, hey, how can we serve you? And they'll be like, hey, give someone, bring someone that speaks our language or culturally sensitive or whatever. So, or make it affordable.
So how do people feel about this changes? Good. All right. And we have cards at your place. The red and green cards, the green is you're ready to move on. Red is if you still like to, yes, thank you for demonstrating. Red is that you still like to discuss it.
Oh, funny.
Does culturally responsive mental health workforce, should I assume that means cultural, that might include cultural competency?
Remember this in the process that came from.
Are you thinking?
Okay, and Dr. Walker, if I'm wrong, shoot me down. I always heard it was better to say culturally responsive than culturally competent because no one really has competence in another person's culture. If that's wrong, by all means, please change it.
I don't think it's less about the definition, but it's more about the training comes to mind. It's more about an awareness, a knowledge, an understanding, a respect, and also accountability.
And cultural, I would say culturally
so much.
responsive. It's used in the sort of the DV legal term. It may not be used properly inside of a mental health professional organization. So if you'd like to switch it over to competent, that is totally fine with me.
Or can we have both? That's my question. Are we defining this? Is it one of the same or is it two different things? Like in some institutions of education, medical practices, cultural competency means something else when you're treating a patient or treating a client. It's something totally different. You have to come in with an awareness and a knowledge. Like, for example, possibly a Muslim woman or something, if she comes in with a headdress and chiropractor or something wants her to remove that, that's an issue. That's a lack of competency.
I'm looking at the definitions now, and maybe competent is the better term.
Okay, so replace responsive with competent.
But for that sentence, I think it might be a better term. Just from a brief overview, it says competence is the ability to understand, embrace, and interact with individuals. Responsiveness is the practice of putting the cultural competence into action. So maybe for that sentence, it's better competent.
Because that comes first. Yeah. Thank you.
How about kind of around there, maybe even adding accessible?
Okay, and where would you like to add?
Maybe a diverse, culturally competent, maybe accessible mental health workforce or something, or maybe that's not.
And this has to do with licensing. This is under licensing,
Okay.
so it's.
Okay.
So we're talking. No, it's fine.
I would put back the word responsive, like competent and responsive, because like in all the questionnaires that like from the clients that I work with, the major providers, they're asking patients, is your therapist culturally responsive to you? Like that's the language that I'm seeing in all of those questionnaires.
Okay.
I'm totally fine with that.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we good to?
Yes, that's 1.3.
Yes. Are we good to being a green card? All right, thank you. I'll give you a moment to read it. And if you want to make any edits to it, fine. If not, that's fine too. So I'll just give you a moment.
I just went into the search engine and put 30 days on it.
I guess what jumps out to me right off the bat is it's communication to,
Okay.
and it should be with,
Okay.
implying a two-way set of communication, not just us telling them.
Okay.
So feedback.
All right, anyone else?
I like that actually. Green cards.
Are we?
Oh yeah.
Right. There we go. Okay. Great. Excellent. Thank you. There. Having a moment.
Oh no.
I hit share right as you, or save right as you.
Oh, okay.
So maybe that or something.
Okay.
Can we change it to develop accessible video presentations, or even develop video presentations in multiple languages? Although I guess accessible would include that.
We just finished that one. I'm like trying to, no, but actually,
This says the projected end date is Q4 2020.
yeah, we did the licensure pathway, but actually I think the accessible videos, it's something we can think about as maybe doing like a translation to Spanish at least or something, or like
And remember, accessible is not just multiple
language,
languages, but other forms of accessibility.
Like that.
Good. Okay. All right. So that leads us to possibly developing any new objectives based on the DEI environmental scan. So you do have the summary of priorities from the top, those 4 questions. Hopefully that's familiar to you because you've had a chance to look at the report before now.
Oh, yeah, I see.
I would like to see some sort of objective addressing fees and scholarships.
Okay.
Reduction of fees or supplementing of fees.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
I agree with Justin because on page 7, the stakeholders actually mentioned specifically licensing fees.
Okay.
Really.
Okay. All right.
I'd also like some sort of objective, to the extent that it's within the scope of the VBS, to address the payment that trainees get as part of licensing. That's also addressed in stakeholders. And we've very briefly talked about it in previous meetings as well.
Okay.
Setting some sort of standard to reduce financial exploitation.
Okay. So yeah, if you want to start with that first one, the topic, social.
We're still live.
Okay, thank you, Caesar. I'll try to speak up. Thank you. Yes, okay. So social marketing, do we want to keep that as an issue? And if so, why do we want to address it?
Do you want me to
Sure.
elaborate on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So are you asking me how would it assist with this rubric, if you will? How does it fit DEI?
And I think specifically too in the licensing process, in licensing per se.
What comes to mind is, as an example, testing.
Okay.
When we have to test in different languages, accessibility issues with disabilities, sometimes they're hidden disabilities with time and things like that. I don't know. We need to understand the bigger picture in order to best meet the needs of the test taker, if you will.
Okay.
And with social marketing, what that does, it gets the voice of the person that's taking the test. So you have to go into their communities, understand the language. You have to meet them where they are.
Okay.
There's no communication if there's a language barrier.
Okay.
And so in testing, that can be if the test is only in the main language. So it's looking at, accessibility testing.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. And then how can the board address or solve this issue? Any thoughts?
Actually, I was going to see if I could add another one, but I know there's not space. I was going to say decrease timeframes.
For processing times, we've got we have a second slide. Okay. Hold on to that. Yes. Yeah.
So Dr. Walker, can I ask you a question? You brought in this concept of social marketing, not as in social media marketing, but social marketing. Can you define it for me again? I want to reach where you're at.
Very, very good questions. You need to make the distinction. It is not social media. Social marketing, just think of your basic term of what marketing is. The social aspects are meeting race. It's addressing ethnicity. So is it who you are, where you're from, what your beliefs are? It's the social aspect of diversity, if you will, of languages, of different cultures. And sometimes that's left out in marketing because we just do the standard American way, if you will. Because I'm from here, so I'm going to use that as an example. But social marketing specifically focuses in, for example, a targeted language or a community where that language is spoken. So you have someone that is culturally competent enough to go into that community. And for example, let me use a different example. For African Americans, social marketing would happen within the church. If you're trying to help them understand that if you're interested in working as a social worker, you have to meet them where they are. So we start breaking down the language. You provide brochures. You go in and give them access sometimes to what social worker does when they don't have access to it in any other avenue. If they're not getting it in school or in their homes, they're not even aware of it. Okay. So social marketing creates an awareness, if you will. So it would do this for our licensees, for our, for different licensures, if you will.
Okay, so maybe how the board can address it.
Does that help, John? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like go into communities and meet stakeholders where they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Increases awareness of the profession.
I have another example of that.
Okay.
So like I work at Fresno State, and what they'll do is there's a lot of first generation college students.
Okay.
So there's a lot of Latino people, and so what they'll do is they'll do like a day where they have everything in Spanish, and they'll invite the family because I mean, for somebody to go away to college, it's like taking away someone who's working, so it's like you want to get the family to support them to, so that could be another example.
That's a good example.
Okay. And then desired outcome.
Could I actually add one more piece
yes,
to this?
Please.
If I'm hearing this correctly, I think an actually more granular action item, like how can a board solver address this, would actually look to identify within the board staff and resources for people who could be the people who do this type of outreach. If I show up at your church, the whitest boy you ever seen, holding up my arm and showing my pale skin, that I might not be able to move with the language, with the energy, with the way to communicate with that church. But if we've identified people within the organization who have a cultural similarity, I'm going to try and use, they might be a better outreach person. So is that something to look at trying to identify within our existing structure already?
That would be idea in a dream world. It's not going to happen. Okay. This is why you have to have SMEs. You have to have these experts that are trained in DEI and in cultural competency, so that someone as wonderful as you, I would listen to you if I understood that you understood me, where I come from. And that's cultural competency. You have an understanding and awareness of that. So you would be introduced as an SME, probably a subject matter expert, and would be respected in the Black church if you came at us that way. But someone that comes in without that cultural competency and begins to want to share and recruit, it won't be well received if you don't come in with the respect,
And where I'm coming from with this too, as a lot of I work in the HIV and AIDS community, because what we found is the initial response was at a very high level, high socioeconomic, white, male, gay people were the initial people who got responsive treatment. What happened is it created an incredible lack of trust within other communities that their needs were going to be addressed. So if you came in offering services, there would be like, why? Why should we listen to you? Why should we accept this offer? Because this has not been a place of comfort and welcome.
That's a really good point. And I think he said the magic word, which is trust. Yeah. So to me, that's how do we get that in there? Yeah. Yes.
So maybe.
So I love this. This is good. Trying to discern it to consumer protection and the licensing pathway to get licensed. What would you say? I mean, I can understand our role I can see for consumer protection is definitely working on, ways to meet the community, to train more about, how to choose a therapist, what's your right as a client of a therapist, looking for those things. Licensing, it's a little more precarious. We're not necessarily our mandates, although we want to grow the workforce, it's not really our mandate for our resources to encourage people into the profession. I'd like to do that if we have if we definitely have the resources and stuff, be something I would look at. But do you see what are things that you think we could? I mean, I guess that gets into the tasks and stuff. I mean, we get high level.
So why address it? Accessible testing, that makes sense to me from a licensing standpoint, because you want licensees to have tests that they find accessible. So to me, that That helps.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. So could the desired outcome simply be tests are accessible to applicants or?
I think maybe for that one would be I don't know how you would even measure it, but it's not necessarily, we do have an examination portion too. There is an exam goal, and I think that might be better. I think for this one, for licensing, I would think that, there's a better understanding amongst all communities on, first of all, what we've been trying to do is what is the licensee that the board oversees, what they can do, how they help the community. I think that's it's really looking at that part that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I think we should remember this for section in 6 as well.
Yeah.
Because this is going to fit really nicely into 6.2.
I was going to suggest the same thing, that this could be a better addition to goal 6 of outreach and education, rather than limiting it just to the licensing process. I think this is a valuable enough conversation that it should be organization wide and not just only limited to that process.
Okay, and we can move it.
Is that, I don't know. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to mean that.
I'm just thinking of that.
What about if it's within here, we have the social marketing within the licensure aspect, and then talking about the outcomes, a wider understanding or a greater understanding, or I'm not trying to think of the words, but
the needs of
how either of a wider understanding of therapy and the pathway to becoming a therapist. And then we can work on, I may have different language later on about wider, because one aspect of reaching different communities. And wider is, what is it? Broaden, expanded understanding. I think expanded because that's what we want to do. We want to expand it.
So I don't know if this would just be another one down the list, or I started to think of it here, but just developing partnerships.
Okay.
Because say, Kelly was talking about like in Native American communities, if you have these partnerships and then you want to create more people, say therapists, and you have to be accepted, pulled in. So, they have that trust. So.
And then once again, I think you've already got my, I'm trying to think holistically with the plan as a whole. There's also a piece under organizational effectiveness that says, formalize a communication plan that will ensure quicker responses to emerging concerns from stakeholders. It feels like that might be another place to put in this concept to have it be more effective, that response.
That's what I had I struggle a little bit with. Our strategic plan is good, but we do have, it's really crosses over. And I think I guess really the tasks and the objectives we're looking at really they mesh with, you'll see that, like you're saying, organizational development, barriers to licensure, we'll find stuff all And I think we could that's probably something that I can work in the background too, to see if that matches. And then we can look over that. We're going to get another chance at this.
Right. And then when you take all your information, you might see the places.
Yeah, and I can say, the social marketing was in this, but we also talked, and it looked like it might be good in here too with this outcome. So we could probably do that and bring it back as a draft.
I just told I need to be louder.
Okay.
It's saying indoor voice, Trisha, indoor voice, but today I need to be louder. So what we're doing today is a draft. So we're brainstorming. We'll create a draft. It'll go to board staff for their edits. It'll go to you guys for edits too before anything's approved. So we're just brainstorming right now. So, and we can move things around. So if at the end of the day, board staff or board members think, oh, this objective really fits better in or 6, goal area 6, we can move it there. That's fine. So for the second one, reduction of fees. I don't think we want to reduce scholarships, but we want to reduce fees, and maybe scholarships might be a how to address it.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Whoa.
I think that might be the how. Yeah.
Or resources, funding assistance and or resources.
Okay.
I think the why address it is the cost of becoming a licensee and maybe prohibitive to the point that people don't enter the profession at all. So
Right.
relevant to the
Right. And that point was made many, many times in the survey.
But not just prohibitive equally, but the distribution of financial costs are inequitably distributed, which exacerbates a lot of our problems that we're trying to address in other areas.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the stakeholders made a suggestion to allow people to retake the exam a second time for free.
Okay.
I like the idea because some people have taken it 4 or 5 times and or 12 times. I don't know what the average is, but supporting people that are also figuring it out, right? Like, do I need more time? What are my accommodations? And they're trying, right? And how can we support them?
And that's something we're talking about in workforce committee, actually.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I thought Kelly, your hand is up, and then yeah.
So I'm thinking much more laterally, and I just say, have board staff identify funding sources that can be used to move that to licensing fee waivers.
Okay.
You just see there's a budget item that can be moved, or a funding stream that can be moved over there.
All right. And then a suggestion.
I was going to say, maybe this is another topic, but like making resources available. So it could be, whether it's free or low cost study materials or just resources that people might not be able to afford much, or maybe even access to maybe these scholarships or something.
Okay.
Question. We had talked about this, Steve, you and I, maybe like a year ago, about having the board have a robust study guide program so that people are not paying $300, $400, $500 that we pay for through the third party study guides. And I don't remember, are we not able to do that for some reason, or are we just?
We are looking at that. I'm going to be bringing that up in workforce committee. All these things are talking. That's what's funny is we're already doing this stuff. So it's like putting it on here so we can actually get it. But we are going to be. It's complicated to do that,
But doable.
Anything's doable. I mean, with resources and time. So yeah, and then yeah.
Would it be doable under the board's auspices to create a resource guide to available scholarships out in the community?
Well, there's ways we can definitely partner, like social media and stuff is easy to tag, things and such. That could be a possibility.
I mean, because I'm just going back to my experience of going in that I'm just a resourceful person. I went on one of those scholarship clearinghouses and I just cut and paste like 1,000 and I got $250 here. I got $500 there. People are like, why are you doing this? Like, because that's $250 or $20 and I really need that to get through school. So is there a way we can maybe identify places where people could do that same idea? Just like what are funding sources that might be available to you?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the associations that, or I mean, even, you can maybe offer something on, like, if they submit stuff to us, like, it'd have to be, that could be really staff intensive to try to seek out. But if we offer some sort of way where it's, if you want to look at, utilizing our platform for, not advertising for that, we could maybe do something like that.
I actually think, Christina, that's a brilliant idea, having the associations identify scholarships and then maybe linking to the BBS site. Here's some potential resources for scholarship money.
Yeah, we don't do it as directly with like the social media, but we do link to all the associations and stuff, so we can get in. Yeah.
I'm encouraging you to do it directly.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah. No, yeah.
And then the intended results of this is, or the desired outcome would be
More equitable workforce representation.
more equitable workforce representation. Okay.
Yeah, and I would say access more, better access to the, I mean, I don't know.
Better access to
but
the professions. Okay. All right.
And another one might be, and again, and it might be another topic, but I'm thinking of mentoring or supervision. So mentoring might be, you know, just connecting people to someone in the community to let them know, hey, this is how you do it, you know, or maybe some people who are looking for someone to get supervision from because they don't have any connection with anybody.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I know a lot of the like regional camp organizations have mentor-mentee programs. So I'm wondering if that's something, once again, how do we help maybe through social media make people like these? I don't know if social work.
We have like through the California Society of Clinical Social Work, they have a mentoring. So, but even that, some people might not even do it because they don't have the money to join. You know what I mean? So that's something, but it would be nice to have someone, I was even more local, you know, so, but yeah, that is one.
Like I'm in San Gabriel Valley, and San Gabriel Valley Camp has a mentor-mentee program. And so maybe once again, it's about how do we
connect them. Yeah, like I know a lot of people call me and I try to connect, but you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that just have to go pay a lot of money. And ideally, if you can just get somebody to do it at low cost or if not free, you know, so.
The one thing I have to kind of take into consideration as the board administrator is making sure that we're not, you know, I could partner with, we do have a good partnership with the associations, but it not looking like the board is actually promoting, you know, you should sign up for camp, or if we can get involved or promoting a scholarship, it turns out to be, you know, we have to make sure we know who we are promoting. Because we shouldn't really even promote. That's why we do have a lot of requests for, can you post this on our website? I say no, but we can definitely, you know, pass the word on, because we're here for, our mandate is the public protection and not necessarily for the, you know, the, I don't know how to put that. I mean, for the licensees or the associations. So it's kind of a fine line. I mean, I like the partnership, and if we can kind of direct people or maybe say, hey, camp, you know, here's a list of resources, like you said, you really, if you're looking for scholarships, here's some great websites you might go to. We can do it, but we do have to be careful about looking like we're actually promoting somebody's association or, you know, kind of a fine line.
And can I suggest we already have a model to follow for these things? And that's the CEU model. Because the CEUs for MFTs and all that moved out to camp, camp gives the approval, they give you the list. It's all been outsourced already. So we do have a model to pursue some of these things.
Okay. So in light of that, do you want to keep mentoring or do you want to keep it away? You're okay with it?
No, I think it's an interesting concept. I mean, it's definitely, it's a big goal, but I think something that is, you know, and I know I always feel bad when we do get the occasional, even like for supervision. Where do I find supervision? So, and that's one thing where we actually are, that's one actually we might be able to do too now, because we do have the repository. Yeah, people are actually having to do that. So we have the names of supervisors. So, I mean, mentoring, supervision, I mean, I think that's a resource, yeah.
Okay. So we'll go back to the slide before this, because there's one issue or topic identified that we didn't discuss. And that's training payments. That was a big issue. People having difficulty completing their 3,000 hours because unpaid internships. And so how can the board, what are some things the board can do to help with this?
You put caps on what people can charge.
Put caps on what people can charge.
And I think there's already there's a cap on how many people you can supervise, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Eleanor, could I ask you to expand on that? I'm sorry, understanding what you're saying.
The caps are
To what population? That's
supervisees and trainees.
So yeah, so some people might charge say $30. Some people might charge $120 an hour to supervise them.
Supervisors
Oh.
charging
Yeah.
people.
Okay.
Okay.
Supervisors in charge. Okay. Okay.
Because I hadn't experienced that model. I did all of mine through agency work, so the supervisors were part of me working at the agency.
No, there's some people that can be pretty lucrative.
Kelly?
I'm all on board with Justin. I think this is terrible. It happens in almost every professional industry. I think we should adopt a resolution on it.
Okay.
Maybe not necessarily a regulation, because that will go through the regulatory process, but we can certainly have BDS draft a generalized resolution,
Okay.
Condemning financial exploitation.
Okay, so draft a resolution condemning financial exploitation.
Kelly, so let's say we draft that, it goes through, then what is the accountability?
I think there's a notice pathway first. That is, you might be subject to ethical enforcement under DBS regulations. This is not okay. The more enforceable it would be to adopt a regulation against it.
We would have to adopt a regulation. It wouldn't have to do anything.
Yeah. I mean, the resolution sort of puts people on notice. The enforcement regulation would allow us to actually do something.
I don't know exactly what the next step would look like, but we have put regulations on where people can get their hours from, what sort of sites they can get from, how many trainees a certain supervisor can have. So it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility to also then address finances, which we actually already address finances, because we say in certain cases you can't get, you have to be like a W-2 employee or something like that, right?
Yeah. And I'm totally 100% on board with that. I just think if you want the street shot now, I'm 100% on board with drafting a resolution against it. Because it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Don't they have choice in whether they get employed by these people or not? When you work in an agency, you're not, you don't pay anything. But if you go outside of that, then you choose who you.
I know some agencies they won't provide the supervision. They'll have to get it from the outside. So they have getting hours, but they won't provide it.
Yeah, and the idea that you just have this totally open free market of choice is completely opposed to all of this equity approach. Because we could say the same thing about we'll just go to a cheaper school, just do a different profession. The idea is that we're trying to address structural issues that are in place that are disproportionately affecting some populations more than others.
And this is kind of why we have the limitations and stuff. This came out years ago, 2010, or even way before that. That's why we have the restrictions on the amount of supervisors. We have the non-exempt, exempt settings. That's why all that came into play. Part of it was for that reason, and how you couldn't work you can only work in private practice for 6 years, because then we were thinking if you're just keeping this person from moving forward, maybe you're not signing off on the hours because they're making you money and maybe even paying you some money. So that's why we have those in place. I think a resolution is not really going to do much. If we want to look at it, maybe just start looking at, once again, also in this arena, it's a very fine line, because we're going to hit a point where we're not going to have enough supervisors. I'm fearful of that. And so we're going to have a bottleneck. So we have to kind of really weigh the restrictions that we want to put on them as opposed to being able to have enough supervisors out there. Sure, and it's a topic that it's happening nationally. They're trying to look at, what are the normal payments for supervisors out there. So it's something that, we could do a study, we can kind of look at it and see where it's at, but I think if we're going to do anything, it would have to be through the regulatory, if it's going to do anything through the regulatory process.
And I'm wondering if this might fit into 4, which is legislation and regulation. And we put this into that 2026, that longer plan, that this would be a focus that is the board is pushing.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
And also to echo, this is the top concern of stakeholders.
I think that's
financial issues.
Yeah, and I know Steve is right. You know, a resolution has no enforcement power, but it conveys our values. You know, it telegraphs our values to the greater community.
So would you like us to move this to the legislative area, goal area? Or?
I mean, I honestly think it gets better in the legislative goal area, and we can, I mean, the resolution, I definitely keep that on that too.
There is copying
So
and
that is-
pasting it.
Go, Sarah.
Yes.
It's something that you should shouldn't. Yeah, we do have, I think we do have.
So now,
Sarah, can you change trainee payment to trainee compensation? Because that includes things like healthcare.
okay.
We're talking about supervisee, actually. I think. The training that's.
Yeah, it would be supervising actually.
Oh, so not. Okay.
Well, trainees are technically in school,
Okay.
but supervisee would be more all encompassing.
Okay, so supervisee compensation. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right, so increased time frames. That's a lot of people complain about slow processing times being a barrier. It's kind of obvious why I address it, but yeah. And then how can the board?
Even how soon can they retake an exam?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can add the time frames between taking exams, or is it exam retakes or just taking the exam period? That is
Probably retake.
retakes.
It might go.
Yeah, we're talking about that. And I think that really, I think for that, we might be able to put that part into the exam part. And then this one, if you're looking at for licensing goal, why address it? Well, we need to, I think I like the term, make the licensure more accessible. Is that, I don't know if anybody.
Okay.
We can solve it by.
Yeah.
Okay, and and then how can board solve it for decreasing time frame licensing fees?
So objective 1.2 is collaborate with the Department of Consumer Affairs Organizational Improvement Office to review the application process and implement improvements to reduce processing time.
Yep.
So do we already?
Well, we're already doing. Yeah, we're already being addressed in various ways. Not only that, we're going to be talking about that tomorrow.
Okay.
Other ways we're doing this and that goes like the same thing as in organizational development, looking for, do we have the necessary resources, looking at, various things on that.
So it sounds like there's something that people consider you're already working on that. So that leaves us with the develop partnerships and mentoring. Do you want to keep develop partnerships as an issue or topic?
1.3 partner with other agencies and stakeholder groups to reduce barriers to licensure. So.
Okay.
I'm not just talking about, this is also communities too. I feel like those are like the high up people.
Yeah. But we did.
And should we change 1.3 then? Or did we did that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we put that in.
We added.
So do you think that'll cover that?
Yeah.
Nod. Okay. So we'll call that covered, and then that leaves us with the mentoring issue. So big. I know. There we go. Okay. So mentoring, why address it? I know a lot of people taking the survey requested mentoring.
To develop the work, Just develop the workforce, a diverse workforce.
Okay, develop a diverse workforce.
And I'm not sure how to word this, but different than supervision, mentoring would be a non-financial commitment.
Okay.
So I'm not paying for mentoring. Mentoring is a mentor sharing experience and wisdom with mentee. So I'm not sure exactly how to word that,
Okay.
but I think making sure that it's not a financially based relationship.
I have a question on this one of like, maybe it's the next element is sort of what's the board's role in this?
Yes, and our next column is how can the board address it? What do people think?
I feel like the board, given our scope, might be best to just direct people to their local
Okay.
chapters, like Campion, etc.
Okay. Any other suggestions?
I don't feel like all areas are represented well. I know camp is represented really well. I think pretty much in our state. Don't know. I know in our area it doesn't seem like there's a lot of like in social work. I mean, active, So.
Okay.
But I'm saying I would love to see people. A lot of people might not get into. It's like almost a foreign thing for them. At least some of the people I know. So even it would be kind of cool if there was opportunities for them to rub shoulders and hear about, this whole social work thing. Kind of like what you guys did at Fresno State. They had the new people and they had like NASW had done this, but also what I was thinking of doing would be kind of cool. Get the old people from way back then and bring them together with the young people and everyone in between. And, it would be kind of cool to do little things like that so that they could realize what they do. And I'm like, that would, just to open their eyes. Hey, this is not this foreign thing,
How is that different than outreach? Because it sounds like that's not mentoring.
Well, that's how you get to meet people. You network. I mean, if you don't even know who a therapist is and you're like a brand new person saying, I want to go do counseling or something, but you have no clue, never had therapy. It's like somehow connecting them so they can that's the first step is just being able to meet somebody and then maybe starting to develop a relationship and maybe then having that talk like, hey, if you're interested, these are different routes you can go. So, I mean, lots of people I know don't even know how to get there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's
education.
I like the idea. I'm saying it's a big goal,
Yeah,
but I'm already spinning in my head. It's like thinking, like you're saying, outreach. I mean, one of the first. There's a lot of ideas. I mean, we could do like concerted, not I don't want to say it's the term concerted, but we could do outreach, like with getting experienced therapists that want to give short presentations that we can distribute to schools or we can have it out there on our website. We could possibly do something. I mean, just thinking way out of the box, CE credits for somebody who somehow is, acts as a mentor or something. There's things we could do. I mean, it's something that we would, once again, it kind of scares me because of the resources and the time, but it is something I think it's something that's, well, I think anything's doable, but
It's just like for some communities, I think just having a person or a connection is, it can go a long way.
It could be like an online live, coffee time.
Where you another how to
tasks and stuff.
online.
Yeah, where you go on and you there's someone there, meet and greet,
open hour.
Yeah.
And you talk about the licensure process and maybe people talk about where they are in it and have questions.
Yeah, like a meetup kind of.
Yeah, like and like
We have each school, could we recommend each school, okay, have a mentorship program?
It really.
I mean, just write them an email and suggest it.
Yeah, I mean, we can.
That they would be doing it supposedly. with people who communicate with each other.
You can use them as a communication tool. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
sure, the recommended schools, and then the desired outcome of this mentoring, how would you say it?
I think it would help diversify. I mean, it definitely would.
Help diversify. Okay, so this would be, we're on desired outcome, the very last column, and.
Because you're. Yeah.
It's also providing education, like it's giving people education and like almost a life, somebody, a connection, so to somebody, or, they can pick their brain, or at least, yeah.
Okay, so, provide education and connection, and diversify workforce.
Provide professional connection.
Right, so
Provide,
provide,
there's no more,
education
no
and
more,
professional
what do they call it, research.
I don't know, it sounds so cliche, but it's almost like a pathways to, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I was trying to think of something else, but that may be misinterpreted. But if mentoring is tagged on to the process, the procedure, it's a pathway.
Yeah.
For so many things.
So, and, I don't know, maybe it's just in the pathway to licensure. Sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing actually is HCI, and there's a lot of organizations doing this stuff right now. So it could be us just really getting aware and kind of even partnering or seeing what they can use for our resources.
Who's doing that?
Like the HCI has there's a lot of grants and money out there to try to get the workforce going, and so they're looking at working with schools, high schools, and stuff. So
I'm just struggling about the board's scope.
Yeah.
And it seems like educational and professional connections, those sorts of things, that's the purpose of the professional organizations. That's why people join them. So I'm kind of struggling to where would our lines stop and their start? And then are we kind of leading into potentially even revenue areas for them? They're, but I guess I'm just kind of really struggling of what's the right role for us in this process, and then just acknowledging staffing challenges of taking on implementing a program of this nature. I just want to be sensitive to that.
And I think one of the first slides up there really is taking, and honestly, the ideas are coming up. I'm an idea guy. I like them. And I think they're great. And I'm like, sure, let's do this. I'm a little Pollyanna because yes, I need to come back to, first of all, what is the mandate? Consumer protection and assisting a licensee through the process is really, there's 4 things in enforcement of our statute. Oh, Hannah?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to add something to it, but please can finish.
So there's a couple things that our funds are supposed to go to, and this is what it's in our law book, and it's consumer protection, and then helping the licensee in essence through the process, educating them about how to get licensed. So that's really where, with their limited resources, that's the first place they need to go into is consumer protection and getting them through the process. So I don't want to push back because I like the ideas, but yes, we do. I think get the ideas out there, but we really do have to. There's a lot of this stuff where it's going to take time. Considering just with outreach itself, I would have to. Right now, I definitely would have to get additional staff members. I'm looking at that right now too to get a better outreach program. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to get that, but that's what we need. So it's a lot of this will require a lot of staff stuff. Unfortunately, I think I like these ideas and I want to implement them. But like you're saying, we do have to kind of
Who's the
consider.
best implementer?
Yeah, and I think
the ideas are fantastic.
And that's where I've been kind of learning because I think I came into this role already kind of, like, hey, let's do everything. And I still like that. I like that idea and such. But then realizing really the associations are there to kind of, right now, they're the best way to kind of promote, the profession, first of all. There's other agencies, like I say, HCI. There's a lot of money being given out there in grants to other local agencies to kind of look at increasing the workforce by going out into these communities that are underrepresented or may not really hear about therapy, high schools and stuff. I still see that as a goal of ours. I really want to, the promotion of, but I do need to kind of think about that. It's true. It's really, ours is not necessarily the promotion of the actual profession. We can actually present information out there to the consumer of what our profession, what our profession is, why therapy is something that's beneficial for you, why mental health is very important. So yeah.
I would almost say a couple things: consumer protection and assisting licensing. With mentoring, you can assist people with the licensing process by helping them learn through it. Because they're connecting them. As far as consumer protection, some of these agents, I'm just thinking of people where I'm at, some of these, you're going to protect them by, it's like, some people they do not want to get counseling because they think they're crazy or whatever. But if you normalize it, in a sense, you're protecting them by helping them realize, hey, this is not just for, it's not like necessary quote unquote, for crazy people. It's everybody needs help sometimes, right? So I don't know. I'm just trying to see. I always think of like almost the therapist is like so far away, and I think about like where I came from. It's like I didn't know how to get from A to C or whatever. And I think there's a lot of people like that. They're coming from homes that their parents didn't go to school. They don't have money saved. I'm just saying, if you can get something out there to at least maybe pique their interest, that might be enough to even start heading them that way. So.
Oh no, I totally, and that's.
And this whole, all these different associations. Associations for a lot of people that I know are just like, that's like, oh, those are for like, professional people. It's, you want the students in there. You want to open it up. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
No, I still appreciate someone else's hands.
I know, Sarah.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to add a quick thing. With adding a bunch of new objectives to strategic plan. Your strategic plan only goes till 2026, so that might be something you want to keep in mind. If these are things that you can actually get done
That's
by
a good point.
2026. Oh, go ahead. At the end, yeah, that's true, but yeah.
Well, we have to remember that Steve gets evaluated on whether he can accomplish things. So are we giving him?
Yeah.
Are we giving him goals that are achievable?
No,
Yeah,
that's a
but
good point.
these are, just because you have a strategic plan goal doesn't mean that, okay, you'll only do it. Some things can carry over or maybe be an ongoing, because I would imagine some of these things are ongoing goals, right?
You got a point at that I am evaluated by this. So like if it's not me or if it's not you looking at it, but for some reason higher up looks at it and says strategic plan, you didn't get, half these things done. And then it's like, well, what are you doing? Either or, but
strategic plan can sunset also.
Yeah. So, and that's a really good point for the sunset review, which was coming up for us. The legislature will look at, what you've accomplished on your strategic plan. So we kind of have to make it. Yeah.
I think the whole idea is because you show us these 2 videos on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm just saying, hey, there's so much more that could be developed. And so I'm just saying yes, it's a brainstorm. So
yeah.
Voila.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to add to Eleanor's thought. I appreciate everything that you said. I think there's so much value in there. But it made me think of addressing stigmas in communities. I think mentoring can help us address stigmas in some communities.
Okay.
And that I totally see it where you're placing it, and then for the outcomes too. I may have lost my thought there, but addressing the stigmas, it'll come to me.
Okay.
There's something else.
All right.
Maybe even partnering too for some of these organizations that are already in place, meeting needs of, say, for instance, the Hmong population. You know, providing them research, maybe helping connect them to be able to get some of their information translated into Hmong. You know what I mean? So for mental health services.
Want to mention, first of all, I do think part of our consumer protection is access, and what you're talking about, access to culturally competent, or however we would define it, is definitely a consumer protection, which I mean falls within our realm. It's how to really do that. The other thing too is I think what we're doing here is really what we're getting to the point of where we should be in a committee talking about this stuff. I think we're really getting to the fine weeds of what are we going to do, what should we do, how are we going to tackle this, and so. Some of this stuff we've done a lot, you know, behind the scenes with staff. We're working on that, especially the licensing, the administrative stuff. But for looking at like the goals themselves, it really fits within looking at that goal at a committee to say, what is our task side? What are we going to go for and actually move forward with? And that's like some of these we're saying. We're working at them at workforce committee, and that's where we really. We're kind of, I think, going really deep into the tasks, which we're going to be here forever because there's a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of things that need
Still
to.
on goal one.
And we're on goal one, and there's
3:45.
So just before I forget, I remember what I wanted to add to that is the trust piece.
Okay.
The mentoring can address the stigma in communities and foster or build trust.
Okay.
They come together, and that's a big piece. Thank you.
You spent 1 hour and 46 minutes on goal one.
Yes.
There are 6 goals in our. I don't mean to question how you facilitate, but is there a goal that the board would like to address first?
That's it.
And the goals are, let me just. Yeah, so we have licensing, examination, enforcement, legislation and regulation, organizational effectiveness, and outreach and education. Is there anywhere we'd like to go?
Well, and I guess putting it in context as well. So what we're doing is making sure that DEI is reflected in our goals, not necessarily to start a strategic planning session from scratch. So
Right. And
I think if we keep it pretty limited to that, we could probably move through pretty quickly.
And we did send out the report 2 weeks in advance with a workbook. When that workbook is filled out and people bring it to the session, it goes a lot faster.
No, I think that sounds good. I mean, honestly, I mean, if it was, looking at, I think the things like for outreach and I don't know, legislation and examination, I think it really points that might be really good. But and just to let you know, just to remind you that you can, I mean, these are great ideas, and reach out to me too, and we can maybe look at, and Roseanne's not watching, you know, looking at a different committee or something. So we have the workforce committee, but you know, maybe we do one for outreach, so we can really talk about how to do like social marketing and seeing what we can do. So, because then we can have those really deep conversations and try to, instead of trying to like fit it into the strategic plan right now, let's look at that. And those things can actually be added to the strategic plan as we go along, because it is a working document. So.
I'm biting my lip.
No, I'm totally fine. You know.
No, because I'm supporting what you're saying, and again, it's not my role to manage this opportunity here to share. So I'm going to
No, I know.
Not my role
leave
either.
it alone, but that, yeah.
It's her role.
I know, and we're here to support you. We appreciate you being here. But I was a little confused at the onset of what we were doing and why. And so I think that has come back up.
Okay.
But no, it's all good. Trust
Yeah,
me.
and-
I think we just different interpretations.
And the one thing that I would like to recognize too is when this strategic plan was put together, there were quite a few people on the board who are very DEI centric, and there was a lot of push for real specific language to be put in
Thank you.
here.
Yeah.
And so I think what might help is like we found this thing about adding communities to that one phrase, like, oh my God, that's so powerful. Yes, let's add that. I think that might help us shape all of this a little bit more effectively rather than creating an entirely new strategic plan.
Right, and we're not trying to create a plan right now, we're just adding, seeing if there are any objectives based on new information from the DEI supplemental environment and that identify priorities that stakeholders would like the strategic plan to address. So we're just looking to see if any new objectives need to be added. And the answer may be no in a particular goal area, but that's all we're looking at. I am cognizant that I said 2 hours, which would be 4 o'clock. We started at 2. So, I mean, we can begin the next section and end at 2, or if people want to push on to 5, or we can reschedule. What would you like to do?
You look at me.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
say part of the issue is looking at them one by one doesn't allow us, I think we said that from the beginning, the whole context. So those of us who have the strategic plan open in front of us, you know, you can have a more comprehensive. So can we, on this next section, just read all 3 and then let's go back and visit? Just so that we have the context, because there's only 3.
Right, and in some of these areas, you won't see all the objectives because they've already been accomplished. So,
okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but we want to see what's been accomplished. So we don't add what's already been accomplished. I'm a visual person. I'm a visual person. We all learn differently, right? And we process differently.
Well, we also didn't take public comment for licensing. So at the end of every goal area, we need to ask for public comment. Are any attendees still?
Oh, I
Do we
see.
have to ask for public comment after each one, or can we ask for public comment at the
Goal
end?
area.
Each whole area. Okay, that's important to know.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can ask for a public comment from the moderator.
Okay.
Because we don't have public comment.
All right.
Like here.
We're going to take public comment on goal 1. Seeing we have no audience members in person, moderator, will you let us know if there are any online public comments for this item?
Thank you. We do have online attendees, so I will go ahead and let you all know. We've enabled the WebEx hand raise and Q&A function to allow for public comment. If you've got any comments on the objectives created or modified for the licensing goal area, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. If you're on a mobile device, you might find these features behind the 3-dot other options on your mobile device, and each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 30-second warning. Are there any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So here's going to show the existing strategic plan. It's not quite accurate because we only want to look at those objectives that are still in progress or have not yet been started. Do we still want to look at goal area 1?
We're done.
We're done? Okay.
Goal area 1. Don't take us back, right?
So it looks like with these three in mind, we kind of do already have some DI related stuff. We want to increase the diversity of our subject matter experts, equitable access to licensure with the examination process. It's yeah, it shows up on the wall, but it won't show up on the.
I'm gonna jump in on 2.1 and might as well throw the hand grenade across the room. We want to put unbiased in that sentence.
Unbiased might be a difficult standard, so maybe reduce bias.
Not maybe reduce bias.
And then do we want to do culturally competent and responsive?
Yes.
Yeah.
Be consistent. Absolutely.
I don't think we can ever reduce all bias.
Yeah.
I think we can reduce it, as much as possible.
I think that was not the argument, but the discussion we had is how do you evaluate that is there's going to be a greater pass rate for a certain individual population, or
Examinations are culturally responsive to ensure that it keeps that. Ensure that, how do you evaluate it? Because there's really no, because the data that you would use to evaluate bias is proprietary.
And the goal of the 2.1, the discussions that we had during that is really what the view of that is looking at, and actually we're working on that actually right now, looking at ways to attract a greater pool of candidates for SME to work on the exam, because that's what we really are looking for. And
I think increasing the pool of diverse SMEs would reduce bias in some sense. I think that is measurable.
So we're adding to reduce bias.
To reduce bias and ensure the examinations are culturally competent.
Okay.
That's all I got.
And we'll change responsive to confident.
It's both. We're going to keep them both.
Oh,
They
okay.
go hand in hand.
Confident and responsive?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
That's really good. Yep.
Do we still want to keep and address diverse populations? Or is that kind of covered by the confident and responsiveness?
I don't know.
I think it's good.
Okay.
I think it needs to stay.
Okay.
And I think, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe that and should be to address diverse populations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Change and to this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah,
No,
at least I think so.
Okay, make sure it's not permanent.
Right. I actually have a funny story about that. I've been telling everyone ever since. I used to work at Intel, and they brought one of these, and someone drew on it immediately with a Sharpie.
Oh my.
So I think of that every time I see one of these.
Second one.
All right. Oh, we're gonna get rid of this and right here after responsive. All right. So this new one looks good. Did we have any other comments on the other two objectives that was under examination?
The AMFTRB exam and giving quick access to the exam. We're looking at ways to, I think originally we were discussing that in the original strategic plan. It's really goes hand in hand with the licensing processing times. I mean, looking at.
So I think 2.2 and 2.3 are in progress and kind of they stand by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably good as they are.
Good, right on. Good job.
Other additional topics that we wanted to cover under examinations. Do we want to put the exam retakes under here at all, or?
That was moot.
I think that.
That's in there.
Where she put it? 6? Where she put it? 6?
2.2 covers that. Ensure the examination process to ensure timely and equitable access.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that under feasibility or, I'm sorry, the point you made? Payments?
I will definitely put that under some task goal, because we are going to be discussing.
Something for like an action item instead.
I think it's a lot of the things we're touching on are action items that we're somewhat talking about, and that is on our list of things to do for workforce committee. So I think what I've been doing with the strategic plan is trying to put those, when we get ideas like that, putting it in under. You'll see a bunch of them that may haven't been started yet necessarily, but capturing those as task items. So.
You're looking at this, we can move on by 2.2, 2.2.
How about like,
Again,
how do you do inclusion? What are some like measures to look at inclusion?
Meaning, like for subject matter experts or inclusion?
I thought it was just like.
Take that, and yeah, 2.2.
Go back to 2.2.
Process to ensure timely.
Like, how are you measuring inclusion? Since we don't have like the demographics and all those details, how are we gonna know that we're successful in the equitable access? Mhm. And then today I got a new concept from that video, like the belonging as like an outcome. I thought that was really cool. So like, how do we measure inclusion and belonging?
So that's right. Sorry, cut you off. You prompted me.
It's for everyone, not just for
So the
you.
equitable, I think one of the things we were talking about, but I can see that, one of the task items we're looking at is equitable, is giving everyone the equities, making sure everyone has what they need, not giving everyone the same. God, now you can see you had it written down.
Which is what? Like, what are we giving them?
So equity to expand equal outcomes, recognize some people communities have. So for example, we're actually talking about in workforce group, one of the task items we're doing right now is looking at for those people that may not be able to pass the exam. Maybe there's an alternative pathway. We're also looking at, people that might take them longer to get hours because maybe they don't have enough money to pay for better supervision or something. We're looking at easy access, like a quicker access into the exam so they can, get into the exam, take the clinical, and then get their hours and pass it eventually. So that's kind of, I think,
Yeah, so not quicker or easier, but like alternatives.
Alternatives or, yeah.
Okay, so are we measuring like how many people use those pathways?
Well, if we do put things into place, we'll be able to see what it kind of, what outcomes are. And then we have to look for, and that's when we're talking about unintended consequences for this. I mean, it wouldn't be that much, but
yeah.
So it sounds like that's just gonna be a task item.
We have task items under that.
It's so tiny.
All right, so no changes. Correct? I saw those green hands right there. Let's move on. Once again, are we adding any additional objectives to examinations? Saw no.
Is that a green?
All right, enforcement.
We didn't have to do public comment.
Oh, I apologize. All right, seeing as we have no attendees in the room, public attendees in the room, moderator, will you open up public comment for goal 2?
Certainly. We've opened up public comment for anyone who has any thoughts on the discussion of goal 2 and examinations. If you would like, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box, and click send. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 30-second warning. Any comments on the progress so far? And I do not see any requests for comments. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Move on to
For enforcement, did you want to see all of the objectives from the strategic plan first? Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yes, please. I'll try to talk very loudly. I've been told in the past that I'm too loud, so. There we go, and maybe the decrease the size a little, just so we can see them all at once.
Oh, small. Maybe a little bigger. Even with context.
So it looks like we have equity mentioned twice, both in 3.3 and in 3.5.
And 3.4.
Is it in 3.4 also? Must have missed it.
Equitable process.
Gotcha, thank you.
So in 3.3, because that's, I think, where we see a lot of discussions about proportionality related to the enforcement statutes. I would add for clarity, proportionality, comma bias, comma cohesiveness and equity.
1 second while we bring up the PowerPoint to make those edits. So we're adding right before it was right before clarity.
It was right after clarity.
Right after clarity.
So I would put proportionality, comma bias, and then that's it. Because really at this point, we're just making recommendations. And it allows us to delve into some discussion of the statutes.
What do you mean by proportionality?
Proportionality is if you have one person committing one offense and another person is ostensibly committing the same offense, they should have a proportional rehabilitation sentence based on what they did. Yeah.
I think this comes to a lot of the questions that we have sometimes during.
Oh, yeah. And it's like directly from most of our discussions, you know. And then there's a comma after that.
And a comma after complete. The first one.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Didn't even ask. All right. Do we want to make any changes to any of the other? Yes.
The comma after complete.
Yeah, she just
The one on the one above.
The one above is the whole. This.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
put in a separate one so we can like,
Yeah.
make all the
Yeah,
edits to it?
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
All right, do you want to make any other additions or changes to the other enforcement goal areas? Look good. Is there anything that we want to add DEI related to enforcement as a new objective? Probably no. No, okay. One with public comment?
Moderator, can you open public comment online for goal number 3?
Absolutely. If you'd like to make a comment on the goal area of enforcement, you can look for the question mark icon, click that to type the word comment into that text box and click send, or you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 30-second warning. Any comments on the goal area we just finished? All right, I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so next we have legislation regulation. We'll look at the PDF of your strategic plan first. All right, so I'll give you a moment to look at that.
Can we get just a little
A
bit?
little bigger, okay.
You have just one click bigger.
Okay.
Oh, no. Nine.
Maybe like in 4.2, something around like incorporating inclusion principles.
Okay. Give us a moment. We'll switch back to the PowerPoint.
Oh,
Okay, so 4.2. And
they review current licensing requirements regarding registration, exam and supervise experience timeframe. Maybe like incorporating inclusion principles and make recommendations for possible amendments.
Okay. Incorporating inclusion principles and making.
What about saying with the, and this is not going to be the great, but like in essence, you know, review current product and make recommendations possible for amendment of current statutes and regulation while within, I mean, overarching with DEI in my, I mean.
Oh, like emphasizing DEI principles.
I mean, like when you're, because that's kind of what we should be doing, you know, when we're looking at changing the laws, we should be, you know, considering those aspects. Is it going to, you know, how is this law going to affect someone? Is it going to affect them adversely, you know, and who are those people? So I mean, having that, I mean, reviewing, but I think a good component of this is reviewing while having those.
So you're saying like don't add it to the language. We should
No,
already know it.
No, I'm saying
okay.
actually it might, I mean, I don't see the, I don't know. I think adding it is,
Yeah.
but I think in maybe like DEI, don't know how to put it properly, but
I think when you're addressing each of those items anyways, you're already
yeah, you should
in
be.
that mind frame before you even get to the legislative process.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it kind of as a reminder, if we look at that strategic plan.
I mean, like, that's the expectation, but that's not what has been happening historically. That's why we're here and that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
If it would already be happening because everyone knew, then this, whole 2 hours wouldn't exist.
So I will say, goal 4 is the only place we don't mention equity. It's the only goal where it's not kind of specifically in there. So we might want to put something in there.
Okay.
Well, we took out what I said. So do we like
Read
this?
through, she added some nice language
Oh,
at the end of
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Okay,
but-
okay.
Read over the new section.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
How's that? And I think there could be some in 4.3, some opportunity to
Basically, yeah.
include something there, especially when we're talking about the economic impact of.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not on
You know what? I'm sorry. Do you have the floor?
here.
Do you have, is someone else speaking?
Go ahead.
Okay, okay. I knew that.
So, there's plays.
Oh, she moved down?
Yeah.
No, she's looking.
Okay.
She's looking.
I think it might be the last slide. Oh, not started. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And since we were talking earlier about the impact of, or we hear this a lot from our licensees, some of the, especially when we make changes and add on CE requirements about the cost and time impacts of those. So, should there be an eye to equity on just understanding the impacts that these requirements have on the population?
Bearing in mind.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to jump over you.
No, and it's totally okay. I'm still processing my thought because I'm still on 4.2. I actually think Board Member Ortega had a really good point when you look at the principles of DEI, because for someone that's in that lens, it brings in, it's not just DEI, but it's best practices and principles. So I don't know how you get that in there. It's just keep throwing in those words, DEI, that's so general, it's so generic, right? But we're looking at the principles, we're looking at best practices. That's what DEI officers weigh on. So.
So Sarah tried to capture what you were saying. Is that helpful?
Yeah, but if you also agree, Abigail, because I think I like the DEI principles as well. So best practices, people, that's more of a layman's language, if you will. I think they would get that more so, but the principles is just, for me, it's like, I love that word. But if you're okay with this, you want to add it?
She married what I said and what you said and what Steve said.
Right. So that's good. You do a good job. Okay. Yeah, best practices and principles.
All right. So Wendy, you were talking about adding something about equity to 4.3.
Yeah. I would
Can I try something
welcome
real quick?
some help
Okay.
on how to incorporate that.
Rather than just putting in the road DEI,
Yeah.
can we actually address it with reflection of socioeconomic impact?
Okay.
Because that's, every time we add a CEU thing, that's like a horse I ride hard to the boardroom. Oh, you voted down. But socioeconomic input we use is we keep adding CEUs, and those CEUs are
Yeah,
not
that
cheap.
hits hard.
Yeah. Does that reflect a little bit of?
That's yeah.
Yeah, the feedback that we get on those. So understanding how those disproportionately.
Yeah.
Do.
Yeah.
First part.
I bet it was brilliant.
Sensitivity.
Understanding of.
Or reflecting social and economic impact. Reflecting sounds like me.
Okay. Reflecting social and economic impact. Okay.
Yeah.
Wendy, is that
Would with a consideration too, instead of, I'm not sure.
instead of reflecting, so change reflected to?
I talk like a therapist, you talk like an EO, you take it.
Because I think that's definitely, because I'm right there with you, and actually we have a couple
Okay. Consideration of.
with consideration, of social and
Okay.
economic impact. That's good.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right.
That's like,
Yeah.
It takes a
And
bit.
then, if anyone wants to create any new ones, we've got this one that was, moved earlier. So, if we want to keep it, what would be the desired outcome?
Reduced, to have, reduce financial barriers
Okay.
to licensure.
Reduce financial barriers to license.
Is the title right for that? Because it's not really compensation to the supervisee. We're more talking about what
Right,
expenses
right,
they have,
No,
right?
both, because also they are paid or not paid in some cases. So it's both what costs they incur and also the.
Right, but nothing in the rest of the line says anything about those items.
That was missed then. Yeah, yeah.
So,
I brought up I specifically said that we need to address them not being paid. And then it was added also that supervisees are paying for supervision. But both of those are, I think, collapsed in the same idea.
but should we,
Oh,
how can we solve and address it? Because we're just saying the limit what supervisors can charge trainees. We're not saying what we could do about the fact that they're not.
And paying the internships. Yeah. The huge issue.
supervising fees and compensation. I mean, that's what we're wanting to look at.
Okay,
Look at the
so-
compensation and the fees at the same time.
Okay, so supervising fees and compensation.
You take out trainee.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Oh, actually, it should be supervision fees and compensation.
Okay.
Oh, well, that doesn't.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, we know, I know what you're looking at both ends, you know.
So supervision fees and supervising
Supervisor.
compensation.
Supervising
We have
compensation.
two separate,
But make it one shorter.
Okay.
Doesn't-
Alright, so this,
There we go.
have we captured it? Yes, I can see thumbs up. Because this is the leverage, yeah. Do you need to introduce regulation at all?
You know, I mean, yeah, we'll have to.
And yeah. Okay. Any other objectives that you would like to add for this section or?
In the third column that you're currently in, can you add address pay disparities?
Okay. Address pay disparities.
I think that's hinted at with introduced regulation, but it's not
Okay.
identified specifically.
Thanks. Right. Do we want to add anything else or go into the next goal area? Going one? Okay, so let's do public comments before we move on. We'll do public comments for legislation and regulations.
Moderator, would you see if there's any public comment for goal number 4, please?
Certainly. We've opened up the public comment feature in order to take comments on the legislation and regulation goal area. If you'd like to make a comment, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You can click on the question mark icon and then fill in the text box there with the word comment and click send. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 30-second warning. Are there any comments on the legislation regulation goal area? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have a request for a 5-minute bio break.
Yeah, just
Okay.
entertain the idea.
Yes.
One last thing.
take a 5-minute break.
One last thing. On that last one that we had up, I know it talked to, I guess, the supervision fee, but I don't think it talked to the supervisory, whatever that word was. So that I don't think it talked to supervisory compensation because it says reduce financial barriers to licensure. But I was going to say, is there a way of addressing the supervisory compensation?
Well, not being paid is a financial barrier.
So maybe equitable pay, or I don't.
Well, hold on. We just took a 5-minute bio break, so maybe we should wait to make any changes till we're back.
Is this muted?
Sorry.
Christina. Somebody. Steve, is this muted?
Huh?
Is this on mute?
No, I'll be careful. Everyone.
Just wondering.
There should be a mute on the top of the hockey puck shaped speaker. And then when the meeting resumes, you'll be able to hit it again to unmute yourselves.
The red means
The red means you're muted. Okay, so you do appear to be muted now. Well done.